Welcome back, fellow seekers of the shadows. You've tuned into Stories of Crime, the place where the veil between the mundane and the monstrous is brutally ripped away. Tonight, we aren't just reading a report. We are opening a file, marked top priority, tucked away in the darkest corner of the archives. We're going to step across that chalk line and peer into the void, where human nature meets its most terrifying extremes. In this hour, the street lights flicker, the shadows deepen, and the truth is often far more chilling than any fiction you could invent. Forget the heroes. Tonight, we focus on the villains. On the motives that curdle the blood, and the consequences that echo forever. So, dim the lights. Lock your doors. Take a deep, steadying breath, because once the story begins, there's no turning back. This is Stories of Crime. And the case we're unfolding tonight is Unnatural Death. Look, the anatomy of a mystery. Welcome, curious minds, to Unnatural Death, a journey into the deepest, most perplexing mysteries that life leaves behind. Prepare yourselves for an exploration that will fundamentally reshape your understanding of mortality, justice, and the silent, yet profoundly eloquent, stories told by those who can no longer speak for themselves. This isn't just a book, it is an immersive expedition, a meticulous dissection of the inexplicable, and a profound testament to the relentless human pursuit of truth. From the very first breath we take, we are hurtling towards an inevitable end. Death. It is the ultimate democratizer, touching every life, regardless of status, wealth, or power. Yet, despite its universality, death remains, for many, the greatest unknown, a veiled threshold we fear to cross and often shy away from contemplating too deeply. We build societies, construct philosophies, and craft rituals to help us process this absolute finality, attempting to imbue it with meaning, or at least, some semblance of order. But what if death isn't always as straightforward as it appears? What if the quiet stillness that follows a life cessation isn't the final chapter, but merely the opening line to an entirely different, often chilling, narrative? What if, in that profound stillness, the deceased begin to speak, revealing secrets, exposing lies, and demanding justice? That is the very essence of our quest together, to peel back the layers of assumption, to challenge the comforting illusion of predictability, and to confront the sheer, breathtaking unpredictability of death itself. We will venture into the often overlooked realm where life unexpectedly ends, not through the gentle fading of old age or the clear-cut tragedy of an accident, but through means that defy initial explanation, means that scream for deeper scrutiny. Here, the deceased are not merely victims, they are the most honest, unimpeachable witnesses, their bodies holding blueprints of events, their very tissues recording timelines, their silent forms echoing struggles and betrayals that no living person might ever confess. It is in these moments of unnatural death that the hidden truths truly emerge, painstakingly extracted by the dedicated practitioners of forensic science. They are the interpreters of this most intimate, most profound language, the silent testimony of the dead. Our exploration begins with a fundamental question, one that perhaps you, like countless others, have pondered in moments of quiet reflection: what secrets do our bodies carry into the grave, and can those secrets truly ever be silenced? Think about it for a moment. Every scar, every healed fracture, every trace of exposure to a substance, every subtle alteration within our cells, these are all indelible marks, a biological autobiography etched onto our very being. When life departs, does this autobiography simply cease, its pages forever closed? Or does it, in fact, become more legible, more brutally honest, precisely because the conscious will to conceal, to mislead, to fabricate, has vanished? The answer, as we shall discover, is a resounding and often startling yes. The body, in its stillness, becomes a canvas of truth, an archive of a life's final moments, waiting for the right pair of trained eyes to read its story. Consider the haunting case of a young man, let's call him Arthur, found deceased in his modest apartment. His friends reported him to be a vibrant, if somewhat melancholic, artist. The initial police assessment pointed towards suicide by overdose, given the presence of empty pill bottles and a note found nearby. The scene suggested a straightforward, albeit tragic, conclusion. His family, though devastated, began the sorrowful process of acceptance. But a meticulous forensic pathologist, driven by an unyielding commitment to leave no stone unturned, harbored a flicker of doubt. Arthur's note, while superficially appearing to be a farewell, contained a peculiar turn of phrase, an idiom that felt slightly off, not quite in character with his usual eloquence. It was A.S. But Dr. Sharma's training had instilled in her an almost obsessive attention to detail. This particular pinprick, she noted, wasn't merely a surface discoloration. There was a microscopic irregularity to its edges, a faint halo that suggested something more than a natural occurrence. The initial report listed no external injuries, but this was undeniably an injury, however tiny. Her internal alarm bells began to sound softly. She decided, against the mild protestations of a busy schedule and a stack of other cases, to proceed with a full autopsy. The internal examination began as expected, signs consistent with advanced age, some arterial plaque, but nothing immediately indicative of a sudden, fatal cardiac event. The heart itself, while old, was structurally sound enough to have continued beating for quite some time. Dr. Sharma returned to the subtle external finding. What could cause such a precise, minute puncture? She carefully dissected the tissue around the ear, under a powerful magnifying lens. Deeper inside, beneath the skin, she found a nearly invisible track, leading to a small pocket of hemorrhage, and within that pocket, a minuscule, barely visible fragment of what appeared to be dark, hardened wax. Not natural earwax, but something foreign. She immediately sent it for chemical analysis and broadened her toxicological screening far beyond the usual parameters. The results came back in 24 hours, chillingly conclusive. The dark fragment was a residue of a highly potent, fast-acting neurotoxin, delivered through a specially modified, almost invisible dart. The pinprick was the entry point. The family, naturally, was in utter disbelief. Mrs. Vance, peaceful in her armchair, had been murdered. The neurotoxin had mimicked a natural cardiac arrest, leaving no other obvious trace. Without Dr. Sharma's meticulous observation, her unwavering refusal to accept the superficial narrative, a killer would have walked free, and Mrs. Vance's true story would have been buried forever. This, my friends, is the power of forensic science in action. Psychologically, why do such anecdotes grab us so intensely? Because they shatter our sense of security, forcing us to confront the unsettling truth that evil can wear the most innocuous disguises. We are wired to seek patterns, to find order, and when that order is violently disrupted by a hidden malevolence, it triggers a deep-seated fear. The satisfaction comes from the revelation, the moment the hidden truth bursts into the light. It is the triumph of intellect over deceit, of justice over concealment. This aha moment is profoundly gratifying because it resolves a cognitive dissonance. It takes a chaotic, unexplained event and frames it within a coherent, albeit tragic, narrative. It reminds us that even when all seems lost, the truth possesses an incredible resilience, and dedicated individuals can, through their unwavering commitment, bring it to the surface. It underscores our fundamental belief in justice, even if it has to be wrested from the jaws of a meticulously planned deception. How can you apply this practical insight? This anecdote serves as a powerful reminder of the profound importance of critical inquiry and an unwavering commitment to detail. It encourages you to challenge initial assumptions, especially when a situation seems too neatly packaged. In your daily life, whether it's understanding a complex problem at work, evaluating news, or even interpreting personal interactions, ask yourself, what am I missing? What lies beneath the surface? What tiny, seemingly insignificant detail could fundamentally alter my understanding? This isn't about fostering suspicion, but rather developing a sophisticated discernment, a forensic mindset that probes beyond the obvious, seeking the deeper patterns and underlying realities. It cultivates an intellectual curiosity that can be invaluable in navigating the complexities of modern life. This journey, this exploration into the anatomy of mystery, will span approximately 288 minutes. 200. We begin with the understanding that death, while universal, is frequently unpredictable in its manifestations, often concealing more than it reveals at first glance. We embrace the powerful, almost miraculous ability of the deceased to become the ultimate, uncorrupted witnesses, their bodies serving as archives of truth. And we prepare to spend 288 minutes delving into the fascinating, rigorous, and profoundly human science that gives voice to the silent. In the chapters to come, we will explore the very origins of forensic pathology, tracing its evolution from ancient, superstitious practices to the cutting-edge scientific discipline it is today. We will meet the trailblazers, the unsung heroes, and even some of the infamous figures whose actions necessitated the development of this intricate field. We'll begin by delving into the very foundations of how we define and determine death, moving beyond simple observation to the scientific precision that underpins every subsequent investigation. So, take a deep breath, and prepare to step through the threshold, where the dead truly begin to speak. Not with words, of course, but through a language far more ancient and undeniable, the language of evidence. It's a dialogue conducted in silence, translated by keen observation, scientific rigor, and an unwavering commitment to truth. Life is a tapestry woven with threads of routine, expectation, and the illusion of control. We plan for tomorrow, we anticipate next week, we envision years stretching ahead. But death, especially unnatural death, rips through that tapestry with startling abruptness. It shatters the familiar, leaving behind not just grief, but often, an echo of a question: why? Why did the thread break here? Why now? What unseen force, what hidden machination, brought this life to an unforeseen end? It is this stark, unpredictable rupture that calls forensic science into action. When a life is extinguished not by the gentle hand of time, but by accident, design, or an unknown circumstance, the deceased leaves behind a story etched in shadows and whispered through silent clues. Our role, our challenge, is to learn to listen. What secrets, then, does death truly keep? What hidden truths are woven into the very fabric of our final moments, accessible only to those trained to look beyond the obvious, to delve beneath the surface? Could the most crucial piece of a puzzle lie not in what is said, but in what is left unsaid, in the subtle shifts of internal tissue, the microscopic traces on a garment, or the precise angle of an impact? Every death, whether from natural causes or an external force, creates a unique forensic signature, a testament to the confluence of events that led to that ultimate stillness. But when the circumstances are clouded, when doubt persists, the body itself becomes the primary witness, holding the key to a narrative that extends far beyond the final breath. It is here, in this profound silence, that the real investigation truly begins, unraveling the threads of mortality to reveal the secrets left behind. Consider, for a moment, the case of Elias Thorne. A seemingly ordinary Tuesday morning in early spring, a crisp breeze rustling the nascent leaves outside. Elias, a reclusive but well-respected archivist, was found in his sprawling, antique-filled study, slumped over his mahogany desk. The air in the room was still, heavy with the scent of old paper, polished wood, and a faint, stale aroma that hinted at a long undisturbed space. A half-empty teacup, a stack of historical documents pertaining to obscure medieval land deeds, and an open ledger lay before him, frozen in time. His hand still clutched a fountain pen, its nib resting on an unfinished entry. His housekeeper, Mrs. Gable, discovered him. She'd found the ornate oak front door ajar, which was highly unusual for the meticulously organized Elias, but otherwise, nothing seemed overtly amiss. The house was quiet, no signs of forced entry, no shattered glass, no ransacked drawers. Elias, she knew, had been under cons. Its effect was almost instantaneous, meticulously engineered to mimic a natural, sudden collapse. The tiny dart, propelled by an unknown, likely silent mechanism, perhaps a bespoke airgun or a powerful flick from a hidden device, had delivered a lethal dose directly into his brain, ensuring a swift and silent death, leaving behind only the illusion of a man simply collapsing at his desk, caught by a sudden, fatal illness. The implications were profound. Elias Thorne hadn't suffered a heart attack, nor had he succumbed to a dizzy spell. He had been murdered. Not with a brutal gunshot, not with a blood-soaked knife, but with an almost invisible, silent weapon, deployed by someone with extraordinary skill, knowledge of rare toxins, and a terrifyingly precise hand. The perpetrator had then subtly manipulated the scene, leaving the front door ajar to imply an accidental entry or perhaps an interrupted moment, knowing Mrs. Gable would find it and reinforce the idea of an unfortunate incident. The killer had relied entirely on the expectation of a natural death, on the perceived normalcy of the scene, and, crucially, on the pathologist's potential oversight of the minutest, most easily missed detail. But Dr. Sharma hadn't overlooked it. The dead, in this instance, hadn't spoken with a roar of violence, but with the softest, most almost missed whisper, demanding justice through the meticulous eye and unwavering dedication of forensic science. This tiny puncture, this almost invisible dart, unmasked a cold-blooded assassin who thought they had left no trace, who believed their crime was perfect. It turned a quiet, tragic morning into an intricate, international manhunt, an investigation that spanned continents tracking the exotic toxin and the unique craftsmanship of the dart. It was a testament to the transformative power of forensic pathology, to the relentless, often unseen pursuit of truth hidden beneath the skin, revealing that even in the most cunningly crafted deceptions, the body holds secrets it is compelled to tell. This single, astonishing case, where a death designed to look perfectly natural was revealed as a sophisticated murder, perfectly encapsulates the profound journey we are about to embark upon. For the next 288 minutes, that's 4 hours of dedicated exploration, we will delve deep into the captivating, often unsettling, but always revelatory world of forensic science. From the initial moment a body is discovered, through the painstaking process of crime scene investigation, to the microscopic analysis in the lab, we will uncover the intricate tapestry of disciplines that converge to give voice to the voiceless. We will explore how forensic anthropologists piece together stories from mere bone fragments, identifying individuals and even their causes of death from scant remains, reconstructing faces and lives from mere whispers of the past. We'll journey into the realm of toxicology, tracing the insidious paths of poisons and drugs through the human body, just as Dr. Sharma did in Elias Thorne's case, understanding not just what was consumed, but how it acted and what narrative it tells. We'll dissect the ballistic evidence left by firearms, matching bullet to gun and trajectory to intent, examining the often invisible digital breadcrumbs we unwittingly leave behind with every tap and click, and learn how entomologists can determine time of death by studying the life cycle of insects on a body. From the subtle art of trace evidence analysis, fibers, hairs, soil, paint chips, to the cutting-edge science of DNA profiling that can identify a suspect from a single cell, each episode will peel back another layer of mystery, revealing the ingenuity and dedication required to solve the most perplexing cases and ensure that justice is served. Prepare to look at death not as an end, but as a beginning of a complex scientific inquiry. Prepare to understand the meticulous methods, the surprising discoveries, and the ethical dilemmas faced by the men and women who stand at the threshold between life and death. R. The garden, once a place of solace, became a scene of betrayal. This wasn't a visible wound, a smoking gun, or a dramatic struggle. It was a silent, insidious act, unearthed only because someone dared to question the obvious, someone listened to the faintest whispers from the deceased, someone understood the anatomy of the mystery. This chilling case is just one flicker in the vast, complex tapestry of forensic science, a field dedicated to giving voice to the voiceless, to bringing clarity to chaos, and to ensuring that justice, however elusive, can find its way through the shadows. Over the next 288 minutes, that's 4.5 hours of immersive storytelling and scientific exploration, we will embark on an extraordinary journey. We will delve deep into the multifaceted world of forensic investigation, taking you from the sterile, often grim, quiet of the autopsy room to the bustling, high-tech environment of the crime laboratory. We'll explore the intricate work of forensic anthropologists who can reconstruct a face from mere bone fragments, digital forensic experts who unlock secrets from encrypted devices, and ballistics specialists who can match a bullet to a gun with astonishing precision. We'll uncover how forensic entomologists use insects to pinpoint time of death, how trace evidence analysts find entire stories in a single fiber or speck of dust, and how forensic toxicology deciphers the subtle chemical narratives hidden within the body. Prepare to understand the meticulous process of crime scene reconstruction, where every blood spatter, every footprint, and every scattered item contributes a crucial piece to the puzzle. We'll explore the psychological profiles that emerge from patterns of behavior and the cutting-edge DNA analysis that has revolutionized identification and exoneration. You'll learn how the smallest detail, often invisible to the untrained eye, can unravel the most convoluted plots and bring perpetrators to light. This isn't just about sensational crimes, it's about the relentless pursuit of truth, the innovative application of science, and the profound impact these disciplines have on our understanding of life, death, and human accountability. So, sharpen your wits, prepare to question everything you thought you knew, and join us as we meticulously dissect the anatomy of a mystery. By the end of this journey, you won't just hear the dead speak, you'll understand their language. Intro: Stepping into the morgue. My dearest listener, I invite you now to take a deep breath with me, to pause at the threshold of a unique and profoundly human journey we are about to embark upon together. This isn't just a book, you see, nor is it merely a collection of facts and figures. It is, instead, an invitation to step, quite figuratively, into a space often shrouded in misconception, fear, and profound sadness, the quiet, hallowed halls of the morgue. But let us be clear from the very outset, this isn't about morbid curiosity or sensationalism. Far from it. This journey is about understanding, about learning, and ultimately, about a deeper appreciation for the intricate tapestry of life itself, seen through the lens of its inevitable cessation. Our core mission, right here and right now, is to forge a bond of trust and intimacy between us. I want you to feel that you are not merely listening to a voice, but walking alongside a companion, a guide who respects the gravity of our subject, yet approaches it with an unwavering commitment to truth and clarity. This means cultivating a tone that is both respectful of the deceased and their circumstances, and at the same time, profoundly inquisitive, eager to uncover the lessons hidden within the silence. How do we achieve this delicate balance, you might ask? It begins with transparency, with an open acknowledgement of the sensitive nature of what we will discuss, and with a shared understanding of our purpose. We are delving into the realm of unnatural death. A term that, even in its clinical neutrality, carries a profound weight, hinting at lives cut short, at mysteries needing unraveling, at stories tragically interrupted. And as we explore these narratives, often painful and always significant, my role is to serve as your compass, your steady hand, as we navigate through shadows that might otherwise feel overwhelming. Think of me as the quiet companion who walks beside you through a dimly lit corridor, pointing out the subtle details, explaining the complex mechanisms, and ensuring that you feel safe and supported, even when confronted with difficult truths. We are creating a shared mental space, a sanctuary for contemplation, where even the most challenging aspects of mortality can be examined with a clear mind and an open heart. The very act of choosing to listen to this material speaks volumes about your own courage and your intellectual curiosity. It signifies a willingness to look beyond superficial narratives and to engage with the profound questions that death invariably raises. And in that shared willingness, that mutual bravery, lies the very foundation of the trust and intimacy I aim to build with you. We are not just exploring the science of forensic pathology, we are exploring the human condition, the societal implications of violence and accident, and the intricate dance between life and its cessation. This is a journey that requires empathy, patience, and a deep-seated respect for the human experience in all its fragility and resilience. Now, let us delve into the key points that will shape our adventure, starting with the very essence of my role in this narrative. First and foremost, I introduce myself to you not as a cold, dispassionate academic, but as a compassionate guide through the shadows of mortality. Imagine, if you will, standing at the edge of a vast, ancient forest, dark and mysterious, filled with both beauty and potential danger. You could venture in alone, perhaps, but wouldn't you prefer a guide who knows the paths, understands the wildlife, and can illuminate the hidden wonders, while also warning you of the precarious turns? That, in essence, is my commitment to you. I am here to light the way, to offer context, and to interpret the often unspoken language of forensic science. Let me offer a brief, illustrative story. Years ago, early in my own intellectual journey through the world of forensic science and the broader study of mortality, I remember encountering a particularly challenging case in a textbook. It involved a death that seemed utterly inexplicable at first. It allows for a deeper engagement, a more robust understanding, and a more integrated processing of the material. We can afford to be more open, more receptive, when we feel a sense of psychological safety. So, what are the practical application steps for you, the listener, in light of this? First, allow yourself to lean into this trust. Understand that every word spoken, every detail shared, is offered with the intention of fostering understanding, not eliciting shock. Second, practice active listening, but also practice self-compassion. If a particular detail or chapter feels overwhelming, acknowledge that feeling without judgment. We will discuss content warnings in more detail shortly, but for now, simply know that your emotional well-being is paramount. And third, engage your own curiosity, but temper it with empathy. As we explore the mechanisms of death, remember that these mechanisms always acted upon a human being, a life lived, a story untold until now. My role is to bridge that gap between the clinical and the human, and your role is to receive that bridge. Moving on, let's address the purpose of exploring these 23 distinct chapters of unnatural death. Why this specific number? And why this focus on the unnatural? It is not arbitrary, I assure you. Each chapter has been meticulously chosen to represent a unique facet of forensic investigation, a particular type of human tragedy, and a distinct set of lessons that challenge our assumptions about life, safety, and justice. We're not just categorizing death, we're deconstructing it, piece by piece, to understand the forces at play and the remarkable science employed to bring clarity to chaos. Consider the vast spectrum of human experience and the even vaster range of ways a life can end. On one end, you have the quiet, dignified passing in one sleep after a long, fulfilling life, a natural death. On the other, you have sudden, unexpected, and often violent cessations. Unnatural death, in the forensic context, is an umbrella term encompassing homicides, suicides, accidents, and deaths that are otherwise deemed suspicious or unexplainable without further investigation. It's the realm where a medical examiner or coroner must step in, where questions are raised, and where science becomes the primary tool for answers. Let's imagine, for a moment, two seemingly disparate scenarios. In one instance, a person is found unresponsive in their home, with no obvious signs of foul play. The initial assumption might lean towards natural causes. However, a meticulous forensic examination reveals a subtle, almost imperceptible puncture wound, leading to the discovery of a deliberate, sophisticated poisoning. In another scenario, an individual suffers a tragic fall from a significant height. While the cause of death might seem immediately apparent, an in-depth investigation could uncover that the fall was not accidental at all, but rather the result of a struggle, or perhaps even a deliberate act of self-harm. These two examples, though intentionally devoid of graphic detail for now, highlight the incredible diversity within unnatural death and underscore why each type warrants its own dedicated examination. Each case presents its own unique set of investigative challenges, demands different scientific approaches, and reveals distinct truths about human vulnerability, ingenuity, and sometimes, depravity. From a psychological perspective, exploring these diverse categories of unnatural death serves several profound purposes. Firstly, it demystifies death. Our society often shields us from the realities of mortality, leading to anxiety and misunderstanding. By systematically examining various forms of death, we can confront our fears in a controlled, informative environment, transforming vague apprehension into concrete understanding. This knowledge, while sometimes unsettling, ultimately empowers us. It's the difference between fearing the dark because you don't know what's in it, and understanding that the shadows are simply objects without light. Secondly, while I will always present this information with the utmost respect and in a scientifically objective manner, it is inherently graphic and can be unsettling. I urge you to listen in an environment where you feel comfortable and secure. Perhaps avoid listening just before bed if you find yourself particularly sensitive to such topics. Feel absolutely empowered to pause the recording, take a break, or even step away from a particular chapter if you feel overwhelmed. Your emotional and mental well-being is of paramount importance. There is no shame in needing a moment, or in approaching this material in smaller, digestible segments. This is your journey, and you are in control of its pace. I am merely here to guide you, not to dictate your experience. We are exploring the science, yes, but we are also honoring the human element, and that includes your own emotional landscape. So, as we conclude this introductory chapter, let us reaffirm our shared commitment. We are building a foundation of trust, founded on respect for the subject matter and for each other. I stand before you, metaphorically speaking, as your compassionate guide, ready to illuminate the intricate world of unnatural death, not for sensationalism, but for profound understanding. We will explore 23 distinct pathways through this complex landscape, each offering unique insights into forensic science, human vulnerability, and the intricate dance between life and its cessation. And we will do so with a deliberate pace, acknowledging the sensitive nature of our discussions and empowering you to engage with this material in a way that respects your own emotional boundaries. Our journey promises to be challenging, thought-provoking, and ultimately, deeply enriching. It is a journey into the heart of what it means to be human, to experience life, and to confront its inevitable end. And as we step further into these quiet halls, know that you are not alone. I am here, ready to guide you, ready to learn with you. In our next chapter, we will begin our detailed exploration by stepping directly into the morgue itself, beyond the symbolic threshold, to understand its purpose, its environment, and the initial procedures that commence the forensic investigation of an unnatural death. Prepare yourself, take another deep breath, and let us now, together, cross that threshold. The journey truly begins. The journey truly begins now, and with it, a deeper understanding of the paths we are about to walk together. I recognize that for many, the very notion of stepping into a morgue, or even contemplating the intricate details of unnatural death, can evoke a natural sense of trepidation, perhaps even fear. These are spaces and topics often shrouded in silence, whispers, and the inherent human discomfort with mortality. But I want to assure you, from this very moment, that you are not venturing into these shadows alone. I am here, not as a detached lecturer, but as your dedicated guide, a companion on this profound and often challenging exploration. Think of me as someone holding a lantern, illuminating the way, explaining what we see, and ensuring that our passage through these sensitive subjects is conducted with the utmost respect, empathy, and intellectual curiosity. This is a space where trust is paramount. My commitment to you is unwavering. We will approach every facet of this journey with a steadfast dedication to truth, clarity, and compassion. We will never sensationalize, never exploit, and always remember the inherent humanity at the core of every case we discuss. Each life, no matter how it ended, deserves our respect, and each story, even in its most tragic form, deserves to be understood. It's this understanding that I believe truly serves justice, brings peace to those left behind, and ultimately, helps us all navigate the often unpredictable tapestry of human existence. Our purpose in exploring these 23 distinct chapters of unnatural death is multifaceted. It's an endeavor to demystify, to shed light on processes that are vital yet often misunderstood by. Yes, these quiet halls hold echoes of lives cut short, and it is our shared purpose to listen to those echoes, not with morbid fascination, but with a profound sense of responsibility and a thirst for understanding. This journey, my friend, is not for the faint of heart, but it is unequivocally for the deeply empathetic, for those who seek to understand the intricate dance between life and its sudden cessation, between the fragile human form and the forces that bring about its end. We are not here to sensationalize, We are here to illuminate. Consider me your companion, a steadfast presence as we navigate these often challenging waters together. I won't just be recounting facts, I'll be sharing insights gleaned from years of observing, learning, and reflecting on the profound impact of unnatural death. My aim is to be more than a narrator. I want to be a guide, someone who can anticipate the difficult moments and offer context, allowing you to process these complex truths at your own pace. There will be times when the details are stark, when the reality of what occurred is confronting. In those moments, I promise to hold space for the gravity of the situation, to remind us both of the humanity at the core of every case, and to guide our focus towards the pursuit of truth and the solace of understanding. We embark on this together, a partnership in respectful inquiry, honoring those whose stories we seek to uncover. The very essence of what we are about to explore lies in the profound question, why? Why did this life end this way? It's a question that echoes through the minds of family members, law enforcement, medical examiners, and ultimately, through society itself. By delving into these 23 distinct chapters of unnatural death, we are doing more than just cataloging tragedies. We are seeking patterns, identifying vulnerabilities, understanding the methodologies of investigation, and ultimately, striving to prevent similar occurrences where possible. Each chapter is a meticulously crafted key, designed to unlock a deeper comprehension of how lives intersect with fatal circumstances, whether by accident, through a deliberate act, or by a sudden, inexplicable turn of events. From the almost imperceptible marks of a slow-acting poison to the devastating impact of a high-speed collision, from the silent testimony of a body found months after the fact, to the immediate, chaotic scene of a mass casualty event, each scenario presents its own unique set of forensic challenges and ethical considerations. We will examine the subtleties that differentiate an accidental fall from a deliberate push, the minute details that can distinguish a self-inflicted wound from one inflicted by another, or the environmental factors that can mimic disease. Imagine, for a moment, the meticulous work of a forensic pathologist examining tissue samples under a microscope, searching for cellular changes indicative of a specific toxin, or a forensic anthropologist piecing together fragments of bone, reconstructing a life and determining the manner of its end. Picture the scene investigator, sifting through debris, meticulously mapping out a scene, recognizing that every discarded item, every faint impression, every minute speck could be the single, crucial piece of a much larger, darker puzzle. These chapters are not just about the macabre, they are about the triumph of human intellect and dedication in the face of despair. They illuminate the painstaking processes by which truth is extracted from chaos, by which justice, however imperfect, is pursued, and by which the voices of the deceased are finally heard. We will learn how a forensic entomologist can use the life cycle of insects to estimate time of death, how a ballistics expert can trace a bullet back to its weapon, or how a digital forensics specialist can unravel the final, silent communications of a victim. We will consider how the environment, be it a freezing wilderness, a burning building, or the depths of a dark lake, profoundly impacts both the individual and the subpsych. Main chapters 1 to 8, the initial clues. Welcome, dear listeners, to Unnatural Death, and specifically, to our deep dive into the foundational elements of crime scene investigation and forensic science as presented in the initial chapters of our journey. This third part of our exploration, titled Main Chapters 1 to 8, The Initial Clues, is where the intricate tapestry of a death investigation truly begins to unfold, revealing not only the grim realities of unnatural death but also the delicate dance between human intuition, error, and the unwavering pursuit of objective truth through scientific methodology. Imagine, if you will, standing at the precipice of a complex puzzle, one where the pieces are not neatly laid out but are scattered, hidden, and sometimes, even deliberately obscured. This is precisely the scenario faced by investigators in the wake of an unnatural death. Our focus today will be to meticulously examine those critical first 8 chapters, delving into the anomalies that often characterize crime scenes, the initial missteps that, regrettably, can occur even with the best intentions, and the absolutely indispensable foundational phases of forensic investigation that lay the groundwork for justice. It's a journey from the initial shock and confusion to the systematic application of science, a path paved with both human frailty and incredible ingenuity. Let's begin by immersing ourselves in the unsettling circumstances surrounding the discovery of our first bodies, a narrative drawn from the very essence of chapters 1 and 2. Picture this, a crisp autumn morning, the kind where the air carries the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. A jogger, enjoying the solitude of an early run through a remote wooded path, makes a discovery that shatters the morning's tranquility. There, partially obscured by a thicket of blackberry bushes, lies a human form. The scene is quiet, almost serene, yet pregnant with a profound sense of wrongness. The jogger, heart-pounding, perhaps initially dismisses it as a fallen homeless person, or a cruel prank, but as they draw closer, an undeniable chill creeps in. The unnatural stillness, the awkward angle of the limbs, the faint, disturbing hint of discoloration on exposed skin. It's not a person sleeping, it's a person who will never wake up. This isn't merely a factual recount, it's an appeal to our shared humanity. How would you feel in that moment? What thoughts would race through your mind? That initial encounter with death, especially one that seems out of place, evokes a profound emotional response. It's a jolt to our very perception of order and safety. The empathy we feel, even for a stranger, underscores the gravity of what has occurred. The first responders, arriving on the scene, experience a similar visceral reaction, tempered by their training, yet never entirely absent. The subtle cues, the gut feelings that something is amiss, often arise from these initial, almost primal, observations. A seemingly minor detail, like the absence of leaves on the body in an otherwise heavily leaf-strewn area, or a coat draped too carefully, can trigger an internal alarm bell, whispering, "This isn't right." Consider a real-world parallel, albeit a fictionalized composite, that illustrates this point beautifully. Think of the discovery of the Black Dahlia victim, Elizabeth Short, in 1947. Her body, notoriously severed at the waist, was found in a vacant lot in Los Angeles. But it wasn't just the gruesome nature of the discovery that was striking, it was the meticulous, almost theatrical presentation of the remains. Her body was posed, seemingly cleaned, and left in a manner designed to shock and horrify. This wasn't merely a body discarded, it was a message, an anomaly that screamed intent. The sheer unnaturalness of the scene immediately elevated it beyond a simple found body case, demanding an entirely different level of investigation. The absence of blood at the scene suggested the murder occurred elsewhere, a crucial initial clue derived from what wasn't there. Psychologically, why does this matter so deeply? It's because our brains are wired to recognize patterns and deviations from those patterns. When we encounter something that defies our understanding of natural order, a human life ended abruptly, violently, or under bizarre circumstances, it triggers a powerful cognitive dissonance. We seek explanations, we crave understanding, and we recoil from the randomness or deliberate cruelty it often implies. This initial empathetic connection, this internal red flag raised by the unnaturalness of a scene, is vital. It prompts us to look closer, to question assumptions, and to resist the urge to rationalize away the inconsistencies. It keeps us from prematurely classifying a death and potentially missing crucial evidence. It forces us to acknowledge the individual whose life was taken, reminding us that behind every piece of evidence is a human. Every angle, every surface, every shadow holds potential significance. Consider a real example, a blood spatter pattern on a wall. A wide-angle photo shows its location within the room. A mid-range shot details its shape and distribution. A close-up, with a scale, allows for precise measurement of individual droplets. Without this systematic photographic record, reconstructing the events that led to the spatter, the angle of impact, the force applied, the distance from the source becomes exponentially more difficult, if not impossible. Then, a crime scene sketch artist meticulously draws the scene, providing a bird's-eye view, precisely measuring distances between objects, and indicating the exact location of every piece of evidence. This sketch, often computer-aided today, complements the photographs by providing spatial relationships that photos alone might not convey. And finally, the notes. Oh, the notes. These are not just jotted reminders, they are comprehensive, chronological narratives of everything observed, every action taken, every person present, every piece of evidence found, its condition, and how it was collected. No detail is too small, no observation too insignificant. Imagine a detective describing the precise color and consistency of soil adhering to a victim's shoe, or the exact brand and style of a cigarette butt found near the body, noting if it appears fresh or weathered. These granular details, seemingly mundane in isolation, can collectively form powerful circumstantial links or provide crucial context years later. Psychologically, this obsessive attention to detail speaks to our inherent human desire for certainty and control in the face of chaos. When confronted with the ambiguity of a crime scene, the act of documenting every single element is an attempt to impose order, to capture and preserve fleeting moments of truth before they vanish. It's a battle against entropy, a fight to ensure that no piece of information slips through our grasp. This process also externalizes memory, making the scene accessible to others who weren't present, and protecting against the fallibility of human recollection, which can be surprisingly malleable and unreliable over time, particularly under stress. For the listener, the practical application here is profound: the power of detailed record keeping. Whether managing a project, documenting a personal experience, or even preparing for an important discussion, comprehensive notes, photos, and diagrams can be your most powerful allies. They provide an undeniable record, eliminate ambiguity, and serve as an objective reference point. They transform subjective memory into objective fact, offering clarity and precision that can be invaluable in myriad situations. It's about building a robust foundation of information from which to draw accurate conclusions. Following documentation, we move into the actual collection of evidence, a systematic and painstaking process that chapters 5 and 6 elaborate upon. This is where the physical remnants of the crime, the fingerprints, the trace evidence, the biological fluids, the tool marks are carefully identified, secured, and prepared for laboratory analysis. Each type of evidence requires specific techniques to ensure its integrity and prevent contamination. Let's talk about fingerprints. These unique markers, left by the oils and sweat on our skin, have been a cornerstone of forensic identification for over a century. Imagine a glass left on a table at the scene. An investigator wouldn't just grab it. First, it would be photographed in situ. Then, depending on the surface, special powders, black, white, fluorescent or chemical fuming agents might be used to develop latent invisible prints. Once visible, they are photographed again and then carefully lifted using specialized tape, preserving the delicate ridge patterns. This meticulous process ensures that the print, once a mere smudge, becomes a unique identifier linking an individual to the scene. Without this careful process, an otherwise identifiable print could be smear. These samples can reveal the presence of drugs, alcohol, or toxins, helping to establish impairment or intent. Consider a case where a man is found dead at the bottom of a staircase. Initially, it might be dismissed as an accidental fall. However, a meticulous autopsy might reveal a small, subtle entry wound from a sharp object in the back, obscured by clothing or an awkward fall. Or perhaps it reveals a pre-existing heart condition that caused him to collapse before falling down the stairs. The objective findings of the autopsy provide an irrefutable account that clarifies or sometimes entirely refutes initial assumptions. Psychologically, the autopsy serves a dual purpose. For the investigators, it provides clarity, facts, and often, the pivotal piece of evidence that directs the entire course of the investigation. For the grieving family, while often harrowing to contemplate, it can offer a profound sense of closure, answering the haunting questions of how and why their loved one died. It transforms the deceased from a silent victim into a silent witness, whose body speaks volumes under the pathologist's skilled hands. It's a testament to our enduring respect for human life, even in death, that we seek to understand the circumstances of its ending. From a practical perspective, the autopsy teaches us the value of thorough, systematic examination when dealing with complex systems. Whether it's diagnosing a problem in a machine, troubleshooting a computer program, or analyzing a business failure, a methodical, step-by-step approach that examines every component, both externally and internally, is essential for uncovering the root cause. It's about not just seeing the symptoms, but understanding the underlying pathology, the true mechanism of failure or harm. Chapters 6 and 7 then introduce us to the fascinating yet often challenging task of estimating the time of death, a critical parameter in any death investigation. Knowing when someone died can narrow down suspect lists, corroborate alibis, or discredit false statements. Several factors contribute to this estimation, and none are foolproof on their own, but together they paint a more accurate picture. First, there's algor mortis, or the cooling of the body. After death, the body gradually loses its temperature, striving to match the ambient environment. This cooling follows a somewhat predictable curve, but it's heavily influenced by external factors like room temperature, clothing, body fat, and even air currents. A real-world example might involve a body found in a cold warehouse versus one found in a heated apartment. The cooling rate would be drastically different, and pathologists use various formulas and environmental data to approximate the post-mortem interval. Next, livor mortis, or lividity, involves the settling of blood in the capillaries after circulation ceases. This causes a purplish discoloration in the parts of the body closest to the ground, as gravity pulls the blood downwards. If a body is found on its back, lividity will be most prominent on the back. However, if the body was moved after death, the lividity might be fixed in a different position, indicating that the initial position was altered. Imagine a body found face down, but lividity is fixed on its back. This immediately signals that the body was likely moved, a significant clue. Then comes rigor mortis, the stiffening of the muscles. After death, chemical changes cause muscle fibers to contract and become rigid. This typically begins in the smaller muscles' jaw, fingers within 2 to 4 hours, progresses to larger muscles, and reaches full rigidity around 8 to 12 hours, before gradually dissipating over the next 24 to 48 hours. The degree of rigor can offer a window into the time since death. For instance, a body found fully rigid would suggest a death within the past 12 to 24 hours. And perhaps the most unique and often surprising contributor to time of death estimation is forensic entomology, The study of insects. Blowflies, drawn by the scent of decomposition, are often the first to arrive at. Practically, these forensic disciplines underscore the importance of precision engineering and meticulous comparison. In any field where exact matching or identification is crucial, from quality control in manufacturing to authenticating art or documents, the principles of identifying unique characteristics and comparing them against known samples are invaluable. It teaches us that subtle differences can often hold immense significance and that thorough, comparative analysis is key to establishing definitive connections. Now, having explored the meticulous scientific processes, let's turn our attention to the challenging and often frustrating reality of human error in investigations, and how it starkly contrasts with the objective truth that science relentlessly pursues. This theme resonates strongly throughout chapters 1 through 8, highlighting the tension between fallible human judgment and the unwavering data provided by forensic analysis. Human error in initial investigations can manifest in countless ways. One of the most common is tunnel vision, the tendency for investigators to focus on a single theory or suspect, often to the exclusion of other possibilities. Once a hypothesis takes root, especially under pressure, there's a subconscious inclination to seek out evidence that supports it and dismiss or downplay evidence that contradicts it. This is a powerful cognitive bias, and it can be incredibly dangerous. Consider the real-world example, albeit a generalized one, of a small-town police force responding to a murder. Let's call it the case of the Whispering Pines mystery. A popular local figure is found deceased, and whispers quickly circulate about a disgruntled former employee, known for his volatile temper. The initial officers on scene, perhaps influenced by these rumors or their own preconceived notions, might unconsciously look for clues that point towards this individual. They might focus their search on areas where he might have left evidence, perhaps overlook a faint, unidentifiable shoe print near a less obvious exit, or dismiss a witness statement that doesn't quite fit the emerging narrative. This is not malicious intent, but a natural human tendency to seek coherent stories and confirmation. Another significant source of error is crime scene contamination or improper handling of evidence. In the rush and chaos of a scene, especially if first responders are not adequately trained or if protocols are not strictly followed, invaluable evidence can be compromised. A stray hair from a paramedic, a fingerprint left by an officer, or the improper packaging of a blood sample leading to degradation. Each of these can either introduce extraneous material, destroy existing evidence, or render it inadmissible in court. Imagine a crucial fiber found on a victim. If it's collected by someone not wearing appropriate protective gear and placed in a non-sterile container, its evidentiary value can plummet. Was it transferred from the suspect, or did it come from the investigator? This ambiguity, born of human error, can be fatal to a case. Psychologically, these human errors stem from a complex interplay of factors: cognitive biases like confirmation bias, the pressure to solve a case quickly, the emotional toll of dealing with violent crime, and sometimes, simply a lack of adequate training or resources. We crave certainty, and in the absence of clear facts, our minds often rush to fill in the gaps with plausible narratives. The ego also plays a role. Once an investigator has committed to a theory, it can be difficult to admit they might be wrong, even in the face of contradictory evidence. Society's trust in its justice system is also profoundly impacted by these missteps. A wrongful conviction, later overturned by scientific evidence, erodes public confidence, and rightly so. In stark contrast to this human fallibility stands the objective truth of science. Forensic science, at its core, is about empirical observation, systematic analysis, and the pursuit of reproducible results. It doesn't have emotions, BIA. The insights gained from these foundational chapters are not just about solving crimes, they are about understanding the profound commitment to truth, precision, and justice that underpins the entire field of forensic science. In our next chapter, we will delve even deeper into the intricacies of specific forensic disciplines, moving beyond the initial collection to the sophisticated analysis that transforms raw data into compelling narratives. We will explore how the laboratory becomes the next crucial stage in unraveling the mysteries of unnatural death, bringing us closer to understanding the true circumstances behind the initial, unsettling clues. Thank you for joining me on this illuminating journey. Main chapters 9 to 16, The Autopsy Discoveries. Welcome back, inquisitive minds, to Unnatural Death, as we delve deeper into the captivating and often unsettling world of forensic investigation. In this pivotal chapter, main chapters 9 to 16, The Autopsy Discoveries, we embark on an extraordinary journey alongside the medical examiner, peeling back the layers of mystery surrounding our central case. This segment isn't merely about recounting facts, it's about illuminating the intricate science, the meticulous dedication, and the profound human impact of determining the exact cause of death. We will explore how medical examiners transform silent bodies into eloquent storytellers, using every available tool to reconstruct the final moments of a life. Our core concept for this chapter is nothing less than a deep dive into the medical examiner's findings, the revelatory toxicology reports, and the intricate science that underpins the determination of death's true origin. Imagine, if you will, the scene within the sterile confines of the autopsy suite. It is here that Dr. Eleanor Vance, our brilliant medical examiner, begins her solemn and critical work. This isn't just about cutting and examining, it's an elaborate, multifaceted investigation, a dialogue between the living and the departed, conducted with scalpels, microscopes, and highly sophisticated chemical analyses. The initial visual inspection, often overlooked in popular media, is a crucial first step. What subtle clues might the exterior of the body offer? Were there defensive wounds, indicating a struggle? What about petechiae, those tiny pinpoint hemorrhages, around the eyes or on the eyelids, which could signal asphyxiation? Or perhaps lividity patterns, the pooling of blood, that might contradict the reported position of the body after death? Every single detail, no matter how seemingly insignificant, is catalogued, photographed, and considered. This forensic observation is an art form, honed by years of experience, where the eye learns to see beyond the obvious, seeking out the whispers of trauma that lie hidden beneath the surface. To illustrate this initial phase, let us consider a real-world storytelling example, albeit a hypothetical one crafted for our narrative. Picture a case where the deceased, a seemingly healthy individual, is found slumped at their desk. The initial scene suggests a sudden, natural event. However, Dr. Vance, with her keen eye, notices a faint, almost imperceptible bruise high on the left arm, near the shoulder, an area not typically exposed to accidental impact. Furthermore, a closer examination reveals a peculiar pattern of blood spatter on the desk that seems inconsistent with a simple fall. This visual evidence, seemingly minor, acts as a critical divergence point, prompting a deeper, more suspicious line of inquiry than if the body had presented no external anomalies. It's this initial observation that shifts the entire investigation from a potential natural death to a probable homicide, simply by recognizing a pattern that deviates from the expected. From a psychological perspective, why does this meticulous visual inspection matter so profoundly? It taps into our fundamental human desire for truth and justice. When we see a body, our immediate, often unconscious, reaction is to seek an explanation. Was it peaceful? Was it violent? The medical examiner's systematic approach validates this primal need. It assures us that no stone will be left unturned, no clue overlooked. This process instills a sense of trust in the system, a belief that even the most cunning attempts to conceal the truth will eventually be unraveled. For the bereaved, it can offer a glimmer of understanding, a first step towards finding answers in the face of overwhelming grief. For society, it reinforces the principle that life is sacred, and its unnatural end will be pursued with utmost diligence. It's a testament to our collective refusal to let death remain an unexamined silence when foul play is suspected. Now, for a practical application step for you, our engaged listener. When you encounter news report, let's delve into a dramatic moment of discovery facilitated by these tools. In our ongoing narrative, Dr. Vance had initially found no obvious cause of death in the case of Mr. Elias Thorne, a reclusive art collector. The external examination was unremarkable, and initial internal findings suggested a heart attack, but something felt amiss. His peculiar greenish pallor, barely noticeable, nagged at her. Routine toxicology screens were clear for common illicit drugs or pharmaceuticals. But Dr. Vance, guided by her intuition and the unusual presentation, requested a broader, more exhaustive scan using ICP-MS for heavy metals. The lab technicians, initially skeptical, proceeded with the specialized testing. Days later, a call came through to Dr. Vance's office, her colleague on the other end, voice hushed with a mix of awe and grim confirmation. "Dr. Vance," he began, "we found it." Mr. Thorne's liver sample shows staggeringly high levels of thallium. It's off the charts. Thallium, a highly toxic heavy metal, tasteless and odorless in many forms, often causes symptoms that mimic common illnesses, making it a perfect, insidious poison. This was the moment the seemingly natural death fractured, revealing the chilling shadow of murder. The greenish pallor, subtle at first, was a classic sign of thallium poisoning, the very clue that had subtly pricked Dr. Vance's intuition. This wasn't merely a discovery, it was an unmasking, a complete reorientation of the case from natural causes to deliberate, malicious intent. Psychologically, why do these cutting-edge tools and their discoveries matter so profoundly? Because they represent the ultimate pursuit of truth against the backdrop of deliberate deception. When someone attempts to conceal a murder, they often rely on the limitations of detection methods. The advent of highly sensitive and specific instruments like GCMS and ICP-MS shatters this reliance. It's a testament to human ingenuity in the face of malevolence. For the family of the victim, such a discovery provides not just answers, but a confirmation that their loved one's suffering was not in vain, that justice can indeed be pursued. It transforms a bewildering, unexplained tragedy into a clear, albeit horrifying, narrative. It provides agency to the departed, allowing their body, through the voice of science, to speak volumes about their untimely end. Moreover, for the perpetrators, it signifies the ultimate failure of their concealment, a chilling reminder that scientific progress continually shrinks the shadows where secrets attempt to hide. The truth, in this context, is not merely a philosophical concept, but a quantifiable, measurable reality that can be brought forth by these incredible technologies. As a practical application for you, consider this: when you hear about complex criminal investigations, particularly those involving unusual or perplexing deaths, reflect on the invisible battles being fought in the lab. Understand that a negative initial drug screen doesn't mean no poison was involved, it might simply mean the right test hasn't been run yet, or that a more sophisticated instrument is required. Appreciate the sheer depth of scientific expertise involved in forensic pathology. It encourages a more nuanced understanding of justice, reminding us that sometimes, the most dramatic breakthroughs happen not in a courtroom or a crime scene, but in a highly specialized laboratory, under the meticulous gaze of scientists. It should also serve as a reminder that the seemingly small details, like a subtle discoloration, can be the initial spark that ignites a full-scale scientific investigation, leading to monumental discoveries. Beyond chemical analysis, the examination of tissues at a cellular level, known as histopathology, forms another critical pillar of forensic investigation. This is where the intricacies of concealed injuries are often revealed, moments that can be as dramatic as any toxicology report. Dr. Vance, after the gross examination and sample collection, will meticulously take small tissue samples. This encourages a habit of critical inquiry, prompting you to ask, what might be hidden from immediate view? What deeper analysis might be required to truly understand the situation? Now, with these profound medical findings in hand, the narrative tension escalates dramatically as we connect the medical findings back to the suspects. This isn't just about scientific discovery, it's about building a case, piece by painstaking piece, against those who might have committed the crime. The medical examiner's report becomes a critical document, a scientific testimony that speaks directly to the motives, means, and opportunities of our potential culprits. Each finding, whether it's the presence of a specific toxin, the nature of an injury, or the timeline of events indicated by cellular changes, acts as a thread, weaving itself into the broader tapestry of the criminal investigation. Let's return to our complex case of Mr. Elias Thorne, now known to have died from thallium poisoning, exacerbated by a subtle internal lung trauma. The medical findings are nothing short of damning. The extremely high levels of thallium in his system indicated either a massive single dose or prolonged exposure, strongly suggesting deliberate administration. The specific degenerative changes in his nerves and hair follicles further supported chronic exposure, making it clear this was not a sudden, accidental ingestion. This immediately narrowed the suspect pool. Who had prolonged, unsupervised access to Mr. Thorne? Who had the means to administer a tasteless, odorless poison over time? Our initial suspects included Mr. Silas Blackwood, Mr. Thorne's estranged business partner, who had a history of chemical engineering and access to various compounds, though thallium was not directly in his usual repertoire. Then there was Ms. Evelyn Reed, Mr. Thorne's live-in assistant, who managed his household and medication, seemingly with devotion. And finally, Dr. Alastair Finch, Mr. Thorne's eccentric personal physician, who had been prescribing a host of experimental treatments for Mr. Thorne's vague ailments in the months leading up to his death. The thallium discovery immediately shifted suspicion towards Ms. Reed and Dr. Finch. Ms. Reed, as the one preparing his meals and managing his daily life, had ample opportunity for chronic administration. Dr. Finch, with his experimental treatments, had both access and a potential cover for administering unusual substances. However, the discovery of the hidden lung trauma complicated matters. That specific, forceful, yet subtle impact suggested a physical altercation, perhaps a struggle or a deliberate blow. Who among our suspects possessed the physical capability or the motive for such an act? This is where the medical findings truly start to connect like puzzle pieces. The thallium, as an insidious poison, pointed to a methodical, cold-blooded approach, potentially Ms. Reed or Dr. Finch. But the lung trauma added a layer of violent confrontation. Investigators then looked at the alibis and physical conditions of all three suspects. Mr. Blackwood, though estranged, was known for his short temper and a history of physical intimidation in business dealings. Ms. Reed, while outwardly demure, had a surprising history in martial arts in her youth, a detail uncovered during background checks. Dr. Finch, an older, physically frail man, seemed less likely to inflict such a specific, forceful blow without leaving more obvious traces or injuring himself. The medical evidence didn't just point to who could have done it, but also how and when. The chronic nature of the thallium poisoning suggested a slow, deliberate method over weeks or months, consistent with someone in constant close proximity. The acute lung trauma, however, likely occurred closer to the time of death. This suggested a possible sequence of events, a long-term poisoning campaign, culminating in a final, perhaps violent, confrontation that delivered the fatal blow or, at least, significantly hastened death. The medical examiner's report thus became a timeline. We will explore how law enforcement integrates these medical truths with other forms of evidence, such as witness testimonies, digital forensics, and crime scene analysis, to build a watertight case. How do these definitive scientific statements stand up in the crucible of cross-examination? How do they empower detectives to confront suspects with irrefutable facts? And what happens when the medical evidence presents an uncomfortable truth that challenges prevailing assumptions? Join us next as we bridge the gap between the autopsy suite and the pursuit of justice, examining main chapters 17 to 24, the interrogation and confession. This is where the scientific narrative transforms into a legal reality, testing the strength of our evidence and the resolve of those who seek the truth. The journey through the autopsy suite is far more intricate than simply determining what killed someone. It's a meticulous scientific excavation, a forensic deep dive into the human body, where every cell, every fluid, every subtle discoloration holds a potential clue. For the medical examiner, the body is a silent witness, and their task in chapters 9 through 16 is to coax out its final, crucial testimony, transforming biological data into irrefutable facts. We begin not with an incision, but with a comprehensive external examination, often supplemented by cutting-edge imaging. Before the first scalpel touches the skin, modern pathology frequently employs a virtual autopsy using techniques like post-mortem computed tomography, or PMCT, and even magnetic resonance imaging, PMRI. These sophisticated scanners create detailed 3D maps of the body's internal structures, allowing pathologists to identify fractures, track bullet paths, locate hidden foreign objects, or even detect pockets of gas that might indicate an embolism, all without invasive procedures. This initial scan provides an invaluable roadmap, guiding the traditional autopsy and ensuring no critical evidence is overlooked, especially in cases where the integrity of the body must be preserved as much as possible, or where identifying deeply embedded objects is paramount. It's like having X-ray vision, giving a macroscopic overview that enhances, rather than replaces, the hands-on examination. Once the initial imaging is complete, the physical examination proceeds with painstaking precision. The external survey goes beyond visible wounds, searching for petechial hemorrhages in the eyes, tiny burst blood vessels that can be a hallmark of asphyxia, or subtle bruising patterns that might indicate a struggle. The examination of lividity, the settling of blood in the lowest parts of the body, and rigor mortis, the stiffening of muscles, are meticulously charted. These seemingly basic observations are critical in estimating the time of death, a timeline that can make or break an alibi and dramatically narrow the field of suspects. A precise time of death, coupled with the nature of injuries, begins to paint a picture of the moments leading up to an unnatural end. Then, the internal examination unfolds. Each organ is carefully weighed, measured, and inspected for abnormalities. Are there signs of blunt force trauma to internal organs not apparent externally? Is there unexpected fluid in the chest or abdominal cavity? Has a pre-existing condition contributed to the death, or has it been exploited? The heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, and brain are all systematically scrutinized. In one compelling case from our narrative, a victim initially believed to have died from a fall exhibited an unusual, almost imperceptible discoloration on the surface of the liver. What seemed like a minor finding prompted deeper investigation, revealing microscopic cellular damage consistent with a very specific, rare toxin, not immediately lethal but severely weakening, making the fall a mere final push rather than the primary cause of death. This seemingly innocuous observation was the first thread that unraveled a complex murder plot. Beyond the visible, macroscopic findings, the true depth of discovery often lies. However, as the medical examiner meticulously cleans and examines each wound, they notice an unusual consistency, a distinct pattern in the serrations and depth that doesn't quite match a common knife. Further analysis, including microscopic examination of the wound edges and comparison with known weapon profiles, reveals that the wounds were inflicted by a very specific, custom-made implement, perhaps a unique tool adapted as a weapon. This discovery immediately connects back to a suspect known for their specialized trade, someone with access to or the skill to craft such a distinctive weapon. The details of the weapon, etched into the victim's body, become a direct link to the perpetrator's unique skills or possessions, narrowing the suspect pool dramatically and adding powerful weight to circumstantial evidence already being gathered. Or envision a case where a victim dies suddenly, exhibiting vague flu-like symptoms. The initial post-mortem examination yields no obvious cause. But the comprehensive toxicology panel, driven by a hunch from the medical examiner about the victim's rapid decline, reveals a startling truth: the presence of a rare, slow-acting plant-based toxin, meticulously administered over days. This isn't a substance found in a typical drug screen. The aha moment arrives not with a bang, but with a specific printout from the mass spectrometer, identifying a compound that, when cross-referenced, points to a poison requiring specific botanical knowledge or access. This finding immediately shifts the focus from a natural death to a deliberate, calculated homicide, pointing investigators towards suspects with expertise in botany or unusual chemical concoctions, or those with access to specific plants. The medical findings, precise and undeniable, transform the narrative from ambiguity to clear malicious intent, providing the prosecution with an almost unassailable scientific argument. Throughout these chapters, the connection between the medical findings and the unfolding narrative of suspicion is paramount. Each discovery in the autopsy suite doesn't exist in a vacuum, it's a piece of a larger, terrifying puzzle. The exact cause of death, whether blunt force trauma, strangulation, or an exotic poison, dictates the type of killer the police are looking for. The time of death, refined by forensic entomology or the digestive state of stomach contents, can shatter a suspect's alibi. The presence of trace evidence on the victim's body, fibers, hairs, or even microscopic paint flecks, collected and preserved by the medical examiner, can be definitively linked to a suspect's clothing, vehicle, or environment. The ultimate goal of the medical examiner is to build a comprehensive, unimpeachable narrative of the body. They don't just list findings, they synthesize them, explaining the sequence of events that led to death, identifying the specific mechanisms of injury, and even shedding light on the struggles endured by the victim. This intricate scientific reconstruction is then distilled into a formal report, a document that serves as the bedrock for the entire legal case. It is the definitive voice of the deceased, translated through the rigorous application of science. It's this meticulous process, this unwavering commitment to truth at the cellular and molecular level, that provides detectives with the leverage they need, offering concrete, undeniable evidence that speaks volumes without uttering a single word. Main chapters 17 to 23, Bringing the Guilty to Justice. Welcome back, discerning listener, to Unnatural Death, our ongoing exploration of forensic science, investigation, and the unwavering pursuit of truth. We now arrive at a pivotal juncture in our narrative, a culmination of all the painstaking detective work, the meticulous scientific analysis, and the dedicated efforts of countless individuals. In this chapter, we delve into the electrifying atmosphere of the courtroom, where the cold facts of science meet the dramatic machinations of legal strategy. We are about to witness the high-stakes legal battles, absorb the weight of expert medical testimonies, and finally, experience the resolution of the remaining, often complex, cases that have formed the backbone of our journey. This is where the pieces of the puzzle, painstakingly assembled through many chapters, are finally presented to a jury of peers, where the fate of individuals, and indeed, the very essence of justice, hangs precariously in the balance. Our core concept for today is precisely this: to wrap up the narrative arc with those high-stakes legal battles, expert medical testimonies, and the final resolution of the remaining cases. Think of it as the grand finale, the moment where all the intricate threads we've been tracing converge into a powerful tapestry of justice. Why do we call them high stakes? Because for the accused, it means their freedom, their reputation, their entire future. For the victims and their families, it means closure, vindication, and the affirmation that their loved one's life was not taken in vain. For society, it's about upholding the rule of law, reinforcing trust in our justice system, and ensuring that serious crimes do not go unpunished. The courtroom, in this context, transforms into an arena where truth is sought, albeit often through a fiercely contested process. It's where the dispassionate objectivity of scientific evidence must be translated and presented compellingly to human beings who are swayed by logic, yes, but also by emotion, by narrative, and by the sheer force of personality. Expert medical testimonies are not merely factual recitations, they are crucial bridges. They connect the unseen world of cellular pathology, anatomical changes, and molecular interactions to the tangible reality of a violent act. Imagine a forensic pathologist, standing before a jury, calmly explaining how a subtle internal hemorrhage, undetectable from the outside, conclusively points to a specific form of blunt force trauma. Or how the precise trajectory of a microscopic projectile trace reveals the angle of attack. These experts don't just present data, they interpret the silent language of the body and the crime scene, giving voice to those who can no longer speak for themselves. Their credibility, their ability to explain highly technical concepts in an accessible manner, and their unwavering composure under intense scrutiny are all absolutely vital. And finally, the resolution of these remaining cases. This isn't always a simple, clear-cut guilty verdict. Justice, in its truest form, is a multifaceted concept. It can mean a conviction, certainly, but it can also mean a plea bargain that saves all parties from a prolonged, agonizing trial, or even, in rare instances, an acquittal if the evidence simply doesn't meet the rigorous standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. What truly matters is that the system has run its course, that every avenue has been explored, and that a conclusion has been reached based on the evidence presented. This sense of finality, of an ending to a deeply disturbing chapter, is what allows communities and individuals to begin the process of healing and moving forward, secure in the knowledge that justice, in its various forms, has been served. So, let us now embark on this climactic journey through the judicial process, seeing how all the pieces, from the smallest fiber to the grandest legal argument, come together to bring about that earned sense of resolution. Our first key point focuses on summarizing the dramatic courtroom scenes spanning chapters 17th. Think of a prosecutor meticulously detailing the victim's final hours, juxtaposing it with the movements of the defendant, all based on cell tower data and security footage. They call witnesses, the distraught family members who offer emotional testimony about their loss, the first responders who describe the grim scene, the investigators who meticulously documented every piece of evidence, and of course, the forensic experts whose scientific findings will often form the bedrock of their case. Each witness is a brush stroke, adding detail and depth to the prosecution's masterpiece of guilt. But then, the defense steps in, their primary goal not necessarily to prove innocence, but to sow seeds of doubt. Can they undermine the credibility of a witness? Can they offer an alternative explanation for the evidence? Can they expose flaws in the investigative process? Their opening statement might challenge the very premise of the prosecution's narrative, suggesting a different perpetrator, an accidental death, or even a frame-up. Cross-examination becomes an art form here, a strategic battle of wits where skilled lawyers attempt to trip up witnesses, highlight inconsistencies, or elicit information that supports their client's innocence or casts doubt on the state's case. Imagine a defense attorney, with quiet intensity, questioning a police officer about a seemingly minor detail, only to reveal a significant oversight in the chain of custody for a critical piece of evidence. The emotional weight in these scenes is immense, not just for the defendant, but for the victims' families, who relieve their trauma with every piece of testimony, and for the jury, tasked with the awesome responsibility of determining guilt or innocence. It's a profound human drama, played out under the austere gaze of the law. As a real-world storytelling example, let us consider the fictionalized but archetypal case of The State versus Arthur Finch, a case that unfolds across several chapters, illustrating the dramatic push and pull we're discussing. Arthur Finch was accused of the brutal murder of his business partner, Beatrice Thorne. The prosecution, led by the formidable District Attorney Eleanor Vance, built a case on financial motive, circumstantial evidence, a unique fiber found at the crime scene matching a jacket Finch owned, and an incriminating email sent from Finch's account hours before Thorne's death, detailing a heated argument. The courtroom scenes began with Vance's powerful opening, her voice resonating with conviction as she described Thorne's promising life cut tragically short. She paraded witnesses, Thorne's grieving sister who spoke of Finch's manipulative nature, the police detective who meticulously laid out the crime scene, and a digital forensics expert who testified to the email's origin. The drama peaked during the cross-examination of the digital expert. Finch's defense attorney, the shrewd Marcus Thorne, no relation to the victim, chipped away at the expert's testimony, highlighting the possibility of email spoofing or account compromise, methods by which the email could have been sent by someone else to frame Finch. Marcus then presented his own timeline, suggesting Finch was miles away at the time of death, bolstered by a reluctant alibi witness, his estranged brother, who had initially refused to cooperate. The tension was palpable. The jury, initially swayed by Vance's narrative, now visibly shifted in their seats as doubt was expertly woven into the proceedings. The drama wasn't in shouting, but in the subtle nuances of questions, the timing of objections, and the way each attorney strategically revealed or withheld information, shaping the perception of truth for the jury. Every session brought a new revelation, a new challenge, a fresh perspective that kept everyone on the edge of their seats, until the very final moments of the closing arguments. Psychologically, why do these courtroom dramas matter so deeply to us? They tap into our innate sense of fairness, our primal desire for truth, and our profound fear of injustice. It's a painstaking process where every step must be defensible. But then comes the challenge: cross-examination. Defense attorneys are trained to attack the weakest links. They might question the expert's qualifications, Are you truly an expert in this specific subfield? They might challenge the lab's accreditation or the calibration of the equipment used. They might introduce the possibility of contamination. Could this fiber have transferred accidentally? They might propose alternative interpretations of the data. Is it possible these pollen grains came from an innocent source, perhaps carried on the wind or from a previous encounter? They might even argue that while the evidence exists, its connection to the crime or the defendant is tenuous or circumstantial. For instance, a defense lawyer might concede that a fiber matches but argue that it's a common fiber, found on many people, thus diminishing its probative value. The expert's ability to remain calm, confident, and articulate, even under relentless questioning, is paramount. They must be able to explain the robustness of their methodology, the statistical probability of their findings, and the limits of scientific certainty, without losing the jury's trust. It is a testament to the scientific method and rigorous training that often, even the most aggressive cross-examination fails to unravel the core truth revealed by these microscopic clues. Let's illustrate this with a vivid real-world storytelling example, again, a fictionalized one to highlight the principles. Consider the case of the Whispering Dust, where the victim, an avid hiker, was found deceased in a remote, almost inaccessible gorge. Initial investigation yielded no obvious clues, no weapons, no large footprints, just the body. The prosecution's case seemed weak until Dr. Evelyn Reed, a forensic palynologist, an expert in pollen and spores, took the stand. Dr. Reed testified that microscopic examination of the victim's clothing, hair, and even the lining of her pockets revealed a unique assemblage of pollen grains and fungal spores. These included a rare species of fern spore known to grow only in a specific, hidden cave system within a 50-mile radius, and pollen from a specific coniferous tree found exclusively on the other side of the gorge, a location the victim was not known to frequent. During cross-examination, the defense attorney, Mr. Jeremy Stone, launched a relentless attack. "Dr. Reed," he began, his voice dripping with skepticism, "you claim these minuscule particles, invisible to the naked eye, prove my client's presence at the scene. But isn't it true that pollen travels? That wind, animals, even people can carry these spores vast distances?" Dr. Reed, unflustered, explained the concept of pollen rain and atmospheric dispersal, but then meticulously detailed the concentration and diversity of the pollen and spores. She explained that while individual grains might travel, the unique assemblage she found, in such high concentrations, was highly specific to a direct, intimate exposure to those locations. Furthermore, Mr. Stone, she calmly continued, the specific fungal spores found are airborne only for very brief periods, typically just after rainfall, suggesting a recent exposure. My client's boots, confiscated with a warrant, contained the exact same specific soil microdebris and crushed fern spores embedded in their treads, indicative of having walked through that rare fern patch near the hidden cave. Stone pressed further, suggesting contamination from the lab, but Dr. Reed had anticipated this, presenting documented protocols for sample collection, storage, and analysis, complete with photographs of sealed evidence bags and sterile workspaces. She explained how control samples from the victim's home and known hiking trails showed none of this unique assemblage, ruling out casual transfer. The expert's unwavering command of her field, her methodical presentation, and her ability to anticipate and counter challenges with scientific rigor ultimately left Mr. Stone's cross. In our narrative, we witness a range of outcomes that reflect the nuanced reality of justice. For some cases, a guilty verdict brings a measure of closure to grieving families, confirming that the perpetrator has been held accountable. For others, a plea bargain, carefully negotiated, allows for a swifter resolution, often with the defendant accepting responsibility in exchange for a lesser sentence, sparing all parties the emotional toll of a prolonged trial. And occasionally, an acquittal, while perhaps frustrating for the prosecution and victims' families, signifies that the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt was simply not met, reinforcing the fundamental principle that it is better to let a guilty person go free than to convict an innocent one. This outcome, though challenging, also speaks to the integrity of a system that prioritizes fairness. The delivery of these verdicts often leads to dramatic scenes, the defendant's face falling or rising with hope, the tears of relief or despair from family members, the solemn nod of the judge. But beyond the immediate emotional reactions, these verdicts have broader implications. They set precedents, contributing to the evolving body of case law that guides future legal interpretations. They can bolster or erode public confidence in the justice system. And in their finality, they provide a deterrent effect, signaling to others that certain actions will have severe consequences. It is here, in these concluding chapters, that we truly appreciate the immense journey from an unnatural death to the complex, challenging, but ultimately essential pursuit of justice. For a compelling real-world storytelling example, let's look at the resolutions of a few intertwined cases that conclude our fictionalized unnatural death narrative. We'll revisit the case of the State versus Arthur Finch for the murder of Beatrice Thorne. After the painstaking testimony and the robust cross-examination we discussed earlier, the jury deliberated for 3 tense days. The verdict, when finally read, was guilty on the charge of first-degree murder. For Beatrice Thorne's sister, a visible wave of relief washed over her face, tears flowing freely, an almost guttural sob escaping her lips. Arthur Finch, initially stoic, visibly slumped, his once composed demeanor crumbling. This outcome brought a profound sense of closure to the Thorne family, who had endured years of uncertainty and grief. The microscopically identified fiber, the detailed financial motive, and the electronic trail, when meticulously presented and defended, had collectively swayed the jury. The judge's sentencing provided a stern capstone to this particular case, affirming that justice had indeed been served. However, not every case in our narrative had such a definitive guilty end. Consider another concurrent case, The People vs. Selena Ramirez, where a young woman was accused of the neglect-related death of her infant child. The evidence was complex, suggesting poverty, lack of support, and potential mental health issues rather than outright malice. After weeks of testimony, which included heart-wrenching accounts of Selena's struggles and expert psychiatric evaluations, a plea bargain was ultimately reached. Selena pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of involuntary manslaughter, accepting responsibility for her actions, but acknowledging the mitigating circumstances. This was not a guilty verdict in the same capital sense as Finch's, but it was a resolution that balanced accountability with compassion, aiming for rehabilitation rather than pure retribution. For the social workers and advocates involved, it represented an imperfect but humane outcome, ensuring Selena received the mental health support she desperately needed while still acknowledging the tragic loss of a life. And then there was the intricate case of the Commonwealth versus Dr. Julian Thorne, again, no relation to Beatrice Thorne, an esteemed but eccentric forensic anthropologist accused of tampering with evidence in several cold cases to achieve c. We've seen how the almost invisible whispers of microscopic forensic evidence can, through meticulous scientific analysis and steadfast expert testimony, become the loudest voices in the pursuit of truth, holding firm even under the most relentless cross-examination. And finally, we've witnessed the often complex, sometimes emotionally fraught, but ultimately essential resolution that comes with final verdicts, bringing a sense of earned justice and closure to the many compelling cases we've followed. Our exploration has underscored the intricate intersection of law and science, the relentless dedication required in the pursuit of truth, and the enduring human quest for accountability in the face of profound loss. It's a testament to the dedication of forensic scientists, investigators, and legal professionals who work tirelessly, often behind the scenes, to ensure that unnatural deaths are not merely tragedies, but opportunities for truth and justice to prevail. We've seen how every fiber, every cell, every carefully articulated medical finding contributes to a larger narrative, one that seeks to speak for those who cannot. The pursuit of justice, as these chapters have so vividly demonstrated, is rarely a straight line. It is fraught with challenges, ethical dilemmas, and moments of intense emotional strain. Yet, it is a pursuit that defines our humanity, our commitment to order, and our belief that even in the darkest corners of human behavior, light can be shed, and wrongs can be righted. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening and often challenging journey into the heart of forensic science and the legal system. As we conclude this chapter, reflect on the power of evidence, the weight of judgment, and the enduring quest for fairness that underpins our society. 7-Day Action Plan: Developing a Forensic Mindset. Welcome back to Unnatural Death. In our previous discussions, we've journeyed through the intricate landscapes of forensic science, uncovering the hidden narratives that tragedy leaves behind. We've explored how silent witnesses, from a single strand of hair to the subtle changes in a decomposing body, can speak volumes to those who know how to listen. But knowledge, as you know, is only truly powerful when it is applied. It's one thing to understand the principles of forensic investigation, and quite another to integrate them into your own way of thinking, to transform your perception of the world around you. This chapter, 7-day action plan, developing a forensic mindset, is designed to be your practical guide, your mental boot camp, if you will. We're moving beyond passive reception and into active engagement, translating the scientific lessons of situational awareness and critical thinking into a practical, interactive weekly exercise for you, the listener. Consider this a personalized training regimen for your brain, a deliberate cultivation of what we call the forensic mindset. What does that truly mean? It means seeing the unseen, hearing the unsaid, and connecting the seemingly unconnected. It means moving from merely looking to truly observing, from hearing to actively listening, and from processing information to critically analyzing it. Think about it, in our modern, fast-paced world, we are constantly bombarded with sensory input. Our brains, remarkably efficient organs, develop shortcuts to filter out the noise and focus on what's immediately important for survival or our current task. This is incredibly useful, but it also means we often miss a wealth of detail, subtle cues, and potential anomalies that lie just beneath the surface of our awareness. A forensic mindset challenges these shortcuts. It asks us to slow down, to engage our senses with intention, and to question our assumptions. It encourages us to look for the story that details tell, even in the most mundane of settings. This week-long plan is structured to incrementally build these skills, starting with the broadest strokes of observation and gradually narrowing our focus to specific indicators, culminating in the application of these skills to a complex scenario. It's about building a new perceptual habit, one that doesn't just recognize patterns but actively seeks out the deviations from those patterns, the points where a story might begin to unravel or, conversely, start to emerge with newfound clarity. Are you ready to embark on this journey of transformation? Our journey begins with the very foundation of any investigation, forensic or otherwise, keen observation and spatial awareness. For days 1 and 2, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to practice these fundamental skills in your daily civilian life. We're talking about enhancing your ability to truly see the world around you, not just glance at it. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine, if you will, a familiar setting. Perhaps it's your local coffee shop, the one you frequent multiple times a week. You know the layout, the aroma of brewing coffee, the usual faces behind the counter, perhaps even the typical morning chatter. Now, instead of just walking in, ordering your usual, and perhaps scrolling through your phone, I want you to activate your forensic gaze. Consider Sarah. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Sarah goes to the daily grind before work. She orders a medium latte, pays with her card, and sits by the window. On a particular Tuesday, she walks in, and something feels off. Not overtly wrong, but just a whisper of difference. The usual classical music is replaced by an upbeat indie playlist. The seasonal specials board, usually a pristine chalk drawing, is smudged in one corner. The small, potted fern that always sat on the counter near the sugar dispenser is gone. The barista, Mark, who always has a neat side parting, has his hair tied back in a messy bun. These are minor details, aren't they? Insignificant, perhaps, in the grand scheme of her day. Yet, upon entering, spend a full 30 seconds simply observing, without judgment or specific goal. Let your eyes roam. Then, close your eyes and mentally list as many details as you can recall. How many windows are there? What color are the walls? What kind of flooring? Are there any plants? What items are on the shelves or tables? What are the light sources? Is there a particular scent? When you open your eyes, compare your mental list to reality. Where did you miss details? What did you misremember? Repeat this exercise multiple times a day. You'll be amazed at how quickly your ability to absorb information improves. Don't just stop at major features, dive into the minutiae. Note the pattern on a rug, the specific type of electrical outlet, the age and style of a doorknob, the subtle variations in paint color where repairs might have been made. Second, the people watch. When you're in a public space, a park, a bus stop, a queue at the supermarket, consciously observe individuals. This isn't about judgment, it's about inference. Without staring, what can you deduce about a person from their attire, their gait, their posture, their interactions with others, or their personal effects? Are they meticulously dressed or disheveled? Do they walk with purpose or hesitation? Are they carrying a bag that seems incongruous with their appearance or destination? What subtle expressions cross their face when they think no one is watching? What story do their hands tell? Are they calloused, meticulously manicured, or displaying a nervous habit? Again, note these observations. Hypothesize about their day, their mood, their destination, but without forming definitive conclusions. This exercise hones your ability to spot nonverbal cues, crucial for understanding human behavior in any context. Third, the commute challenge. Whether you drive, walk, or take public transport, your daily commute is a treasure trove of consistent, yet subtly changing, environmental data. For these 2 days, make your commute an active observation exercise. Note new construction, altered storefronts, changes in traffic patterns, specific vehicle types you've never noticed before, even the evolving street art or graffiti. Pay attention to the same landmarks each day. Did that tree suddenly lose a branch? Is that mailbox now a different color? Is there a new poster on the bus stop? These minute shifts, if noticed consistently, build your sensitivity to change within a larger, familiar context. Fourth, the anomaly hunt. Intentionally seek out things that seem out of place in your immediate environment. In your home, for instance, is a book upside down on the shelf? Is a picture frame slightly askew? Is there an object on a table that you don't recall seeing there yesterday? These are not necessarily signs of anything nefarious, but the act of identifying them trains your brain to flag inconsistencies. It's like a mental scavenger hunt where you're looking for things that don't belong, developing that essential eye for detail that distinguishes the accidental from the deliberate, the expected from the anomalous. Perhaps it's a new chip in a favorite mug, a faint scuff mark on the wall, or a leaf that's found its way indoors where it shouldn't be. Finally, and perhaps most importantly for all these exercises, journal your observations. Don't just think them, write them down. Describe what you saw, what you inferred, and what anomalies you identified. This act of writing solidifies the learning, forces you to articulate your observations, and creates a tangible record of your progress. It also allows you to review your own perceptual biases and see how your observations evolve. By the end of day 2, you should feel a distinct shift in how you perceive your surroundings, a heightened sense of awareness, a richer, more detailed understanding of the world you inhabit every day. You're learning to listen to the whispers of your environment. Now, as we transition from the broader strokes of environmental observation, our focus shifts inwards, towards the most Second, color and condition. Make a conscious effort to observe skin tone, particularly around the face, neck, and lips, on yourself and others discreetly, of course, in public. Look for variations in pallor, unusual paleness, flushing, excessive redness, or even a subtle bluish tint, cyanosis, especially around the lips or nail beds, which can indicate oxygen deprivation. Note the presence and distribution of perspiration. Is it appropriate for the environment, or is someone sweating profusely on a cool day, or showing a clammy cold sweat? These visual cues are powerful indicators of internal physiological states. Notice also the texture of skin. Is it dry, excessively oily, or clammy? These seemingly minor details contribute to a fuller picture. Third, gait and posture study. This builds on the people watch from days 1 and 2, but with a specific focus on physical comfort and potential impairment. Observe how people walk, sit, and stand. Look for symmetry or asymmetry. Does one shoulder sag more than the other? Do they favor one leg? Is their posture rigid or slumped? Do they hold an arm stiffly or clutch a specific part of their body? A subtle limp, an unusual stiffness in movement, difficulty rising from a seated position, or a persistent head tilt can all be nonverbal indicators of discomfort, pain, or even neurological issues. Again, this is not about diagnosis, but about identifying deviations from what you perceive as a typical, comfortable human movement. Fourth, the verbal and nonverbal discrepancy. Humans are incredibly complex communicators. Pay close attention to how people communicate, observing whether their spoken words align with their body language and physiological cues. Are they saying "I'm fine," but their hands are fidgeting incessantly, their eyes are darting, or their facial muscles are tight? Are they smiling, but their eyes convey sadness or stress? Look for micro-expressions, fleeting facial expressions that last only a fraction of a second but can betray genuine emotion. Notice patterns of breathing during speech. Does it become shallow or erratic when discussing certain topics? These discrepancies can be invaluable in understanding an individual's true state, a skill vital not just in forensics, but in all aspects of human interaction. Fifth, environmental impact assessment. Consider how the environment might be affecting people's physiological states. Is someone shivering intensely in a warm room, suggesting a fever or shock? Or sweating excessively in a cool, still environment, hinting at anxiety, exertion, or illness? Observing these reactions in context allows you to better interpret the signs you are seeing. A flushed face might be normal after a run, but concerning if it occurs while sitting still in a cool room. And once again, maintain your journal diligently. For days 3 and 4, write down your observations of physiological signs. Describe the cues you noticed, your inferences, and any discrepancies between verbal and nonverbal communication. Reflect on how these observations might change your immediate assessment of a situation. This systematic approach is how you forge a deeper connection between your keen eye and your analytical mind, equipping you with a more profound understanding of the human element in any scene. By the end of day 4, you should be able to walk into a room and not just see the people, but perceive their underlying physical and emotional states with a heightened sensitivity. Now, we arrive at the culmination of our weekly action plan, days 5, 6, and 7. This is where you synthesize the observational skills honed in the first 4 days and apply them to a more complex, structured scenario. Our task for these final days is to analyze a historical true crime case, or in our case, a carefully constructed hypothetical scenario that mirrors the challenges of real historical investigations, using the newly acquired forensic logic from this book. This moves you from individual observation to integrated analysis, from raw data to reasoned age. Consider the lighting. How effective would that single gas lamp be? What environmental factors are present? The damp, the cold, the fog. How might these affect the body, the evidence, and the potential timeline? Note the distinct odor. What could a sweet, metallic odor suggest in a forensic context? Second, victimology and perpetrator profiling hypothetical. Based solely on the forensic evidence as reported in our scenario, what can you infer about the victim's last moments? Was there a struggle? The description says no sign of struggle. What does that imply about the nature of the attack? Was she incapacitated quickly? What about the disheveled dress and exposed ankles? Does this point to a sexual assault, or could it be incidental to the way the body came to rest? What about the bruise under her jawline? Is it consistent with a punch, a fall, or something else. Can you hypothesize anything about the perpetrator based on the absence of certain details, or the presence of others? For example, the locket suggests a personal item was dropped or left behind. Is it significant that it's silver and tarnished, suggesting sentimental value rather than high monetary value? What does the shopkeeper's account of a distant carriage tell us about potential timing or noise suppression? Third, anomalies and gaps. Now, actively identify what's missing from the scenario that a modern forensic team would seek. What doesn't quite add up? What information would be absolutely critical for you to know that isn't provided? For instance, what about the victim's identity? Her shoes? The contents of her pockets? What type of injuries caused the dark liquid, presumably blood? Was it a single wound, or multiple? What about a weapon? The absence of scuff marks, while noted, is also an anomaly in a violent death. Does the position of the hands suggest defensive wounds or something else? What about the condition of the ground under and around the body? Are there footprints? Mud? What time, precisely, did the constable discover the body, and how long had he been on his beat? The faint, sweet, metallic odor, is it consistent with decaying blood, or something else entirely? These gaps are where the true investigative questions lie. Fourth, formulate hypotheses. Develop at least 2 alternative theories about what might have happened. For each theory, articulate the evidence from the scenario that supports it and the evidence that contradicts it or raises questions. For example, one hypothesis might be a sudden, incapacitating attack from behind, with the lack of struggle supporting it. Another might be that the victim was already deceased or unconscious when placed in the alley. What evidence might support this more elaborate theory? What questions would you immediately ask if you were leading the investigation? What steps would you take next, employing modern forensic techniques, if you could travel back in time? Fifth, debrief and reflect. After you've spent significant time analyzing, writing, and hypothesizing, reflect on your process. Where did your forensic mindset lead you? Did you find yourself questioning things you normally wouldn't? Did you identify details you initially overlooked? Compare your conclusions and questions to what you might typically assume from a superficial reading of such a scenario. What did this exercise teach you about the complexity of crime scenes and the often elusive nature of truth? How did the skills from days 1 through 4 integrate into this broader analysis? By the end of day 7, you will have completed a rigorous intellectual exercise, one that demonstrates the cumulative power of observation, physiological awareness, and critical analysis. You will have moved from merely consuming true crime narratives to actively engaging with them, approaching them with a newly refined, forensic perspective. This isn't about solving an actual case, it's about training your brain to see the world through a more perceptive and analytical lens. In summary, this 7-day action plan is more than just a seria. Are there any anomalies in their behavior or appearance? Anything that seems slightly out of place from the usual pattern of that environment? This isn't about judgment, it's about objective, detailed data collection, much like a forensic photographer meticulously documenting a scene. Consider a simple task, like entering your favorite coffee shop or walking into a new waiting room. Instead of just heading for a seat, perform a comprehensive mental scan of the space. Where are the primary exits and alternative escape routes? Are there any visible security cameras, and what is their field of view? How many people are present, and where are they positioned relative to each other, to entry points, and to potential points of interest? What specific objects are on tables or counters? Are they personal belongings, discarded items, or something else? Notice the ambient sounds. Are they consistent with the expected environment, or do you hear anything unusual, like a distant siren or a hushed argument? This practice meticulously builds spatial awareness, understanding the physical layout, the flow of movement, the sight lines, and the potential points of interest or concern within any given space. Imagine you had to describe the scene to someone who had never been there, in intricate, forensic detail, capable of helping them reconstruct an event. What specific elements would you highlight? Another powerful exercise: choose a specific room in your own home, perhaps your living room, kitchen, or even your bedroom. Spend 5 dedicated minutes actively observing it, not as your familiar, comfortable space, but as if you were documenting a potential scene for the very first time. Approach it with fresh eyes. What items are truly out of place, even if only slightly? What dust patterns are visible on surfaces you usually ignore, perhaps under a piece of furniture, or on a high shelf? Are there any smudges or fingerprints on light switches, doorknobs, or frequently touched surfaces? How is the furniture arranged relative to potential pathways of movement, or to windows and doors? After 5 minutes, close your eyes and try to recall as many details as possible, mentally reconstructing the room. Then, write them down. Open your eyes and compare your notes to reality. How accurate were you? What significant details did you miss, and where were your observations incomplete? This self-assessment is crucial for identifying your blind spots and systematically improving your recall accuracy and completeness. The goal here is to train your brain to notice the unseen, not just what is immediately obvious, but what should be there but isn't, or what is there but definitively shouldn't be. Forensic investigators often piece together entire narratives from these subtle discrepancies and anomalies. This keen observation and spatial awareness are the foundational layers of any robust forensic inquiry. They teach you to perceive the environment not just as a passive backdrop, but as a dynamic, information-rich repository of potential evidence, waiting to be deciphered. Days 3 to 4, learn basic physiological signs and improve everyday medical awareness. Moving on from external environmental observations, the next 2 days will focus on developing a rudimentary understanding of basic physiological signs. Now, Let's be absolutely clear, we are not aiming to turn you into a medical professional or a first responder. The goal is far more specific: to cultivate an informed awareness of common human body responses that can provide critical context in various situations, especially when considering the potential for unnatural death, injury, or distress. This bridges the gap between our observational skills and the core principles of forensic pathology that concern the medical examiner's vital role. Start by learning to accurately take your own pulse. Locate your radial pulse on your wrist thumb side or your carotid pulse on your neck, just to the side of your windpipe. Feel its rhythm and strength. Count your beats per minute over 15 seconds and mull. Think of historical murder mysteries, complex cold cases with evolving evidence, or infamous investigations that have been subject to intense scrutiny over time. The key is to pick a case with sufficient detail about the scene, the victims, the discovered evidence, and the original investigative process to allow for meaningful analysis. Avoid cases that are purely speculative, sensationalized, or lack documented factual basis, as they won't provide the concrete details necessary for a robust forensic exercise. Here's your structured methodology for analysis. First, conduct an initial, casual read-through of the case details to get a general understanding of the narrative, the alleged crime, the victims, and the key individuals involved. Don't engage your full forensic mind yet, just grasp the basic story arc and timeline. Second, reread the case, this time, activating every facet of your forensic logic. Approach the text as if it were a collection of evidence and witness statements, with your notebook ready. 1. Observation and spatial awareness. What were the initial scene observations as meticulously described by first responders or investigators? Were there detailed descriptions of the location, the exact positions of victims, potential weapons, or their absence, and all points of entry/exit? Could you, based purely on the narrative, sketch a rough diagram of the crime scene, indicating key objects, distances, and orientations? What physical evidence was reported as found? Example: footprints, specific objects, signs of struggle. Crucially, what evidence wasn't found that you might logically expect to be present given the reported circumstances? For example, a missing item that seems vital to the narrative. Are there any significant discrepancies between witness accounts regarding the scene's appearance and the physical descriptions provided by investigators? Actively look for those anomalies we discussed on days 1 and 2, these often hold the key to understanding. Consider patterns of blood spatter, signs of forced entry, or potential drag marks that might have been mentioned. 2. Physiological and medical context. What were the reported injuries to the victims? What was the stated cause and manner of death according to the medical examiner or coroner's report? Were there signs of struggle, defensive wounds which might suggest the victim fought back, or other specific types of trauma? Example: blunt force, sharp force, gunshot wounds. How did these medical findings align with the narrative of what supposedly happened? Were there any indications of the time of death, and how were these estimated? Example through body temperature, the state of rigor mortis or livor mortis, or stomach contents. Consider how the presence or absence of certain physiological signs might support or contradict different theories about the event. This section directly applies your learning from days 3 and 4, connecting observed injuries to potential mechanisms and timelines. 3. Critical thinking and evidence interpretation. What types of physical evidence were crucial to the case? Example: DNA, fingerprints, ballistics, trace evidence like fibers or soil, tool marks, specific patterns. How were these described as being collected, preserved, and analyzed? Were there any controversies or debates surrounding the handling or interpretation of this evidence? What alternative theories or explanations could be supported or refuted by the documented evidence? What assumptions did the original investigators, the media, or the public make about the case, and how might a purely evidence-based approach challenge those preconceived notions? Did any witness statements directly contradict the physical evidence, and how was that discrepancy addressed or left unresolved? Think about the limitations of the technology available at the time of the original investigation versus today, and how that might impact evidence interpretation. 4. Process analysis. As far as the documentation describes, did the investigators appear to follow sound forensic practices as we've learned them? Summary: the voice of the dead. Welcome back, dear listener, to Unnatural Death. As we draw towards the conclusion of our profound journey through the intricate world of forensic science, this chapter, The Voice of the Dead, serves as a vital consolidation, a moment for us to pause and reflect on the powerful truths we have uncovered together. Throughout the preceding 22 chapters, we have delved into the most minute details, explored the most complex scientific methodologies, and witnessed the unwavering dedication of those who tirelessly seek answers in the wake of tragedy. Now, it is time to weave these threads into a coherent tapestry, reaffirming the central, undeniable message of this entire audiobook, that every unnatural death, without exception, leaves behind an indelible trail of truth, a silent testimony waiting patiently to be discovered, interpreted, and understood. Think of it this way: when a life is abruptly extinguished, especially under circumstances that defy the natural order, the event itself is not a void. It is not a sudden erasure into nothingness. Instead, it is a cataclysmic ripple, sending out countless tremors across the physical world, leaving imprints, echoes, and fragments of itself behind. These are not supernatural phenomena, though their implications can feel profoundly spiritual. No, these are tangible, measurable consequences governed by the immutable laws of physics, chemistry, and biology. A single hair, a microscopic fiber, a faint fingerprint, a subtle shift in the earth, a digital timestamp on an electronic device — each of these is a whisper, a component of the silent language spoken by those who can no longer articulate their own stories. The core concept, the very heartbeat of our exploration, is this profound certainty: there is always a trail. No act, no matter how meticulously planned or violently executed, can ever be truly pristine, truly without consequence, truly without leaving a trace. It is this persistent, inherent imperfection of any event that provides the canvas upon which forensic science paints the picture of what truly transpired. It is a testament to the universe's inherent refusal to allow complete oblivion, insisting that even in death, there is a lingering narrative, a story yearning to be told. The task of forensic science, then, is not to invent the story, but to meticulously gather its scattered pages, patiently piece them together, and ultimately, to lend a voice to those who have been silenced, allowing their final truths to resonate in the halls of justice and, perhaps even more importantly, within the hearts of those left behind. Let us now embark on a deeper exploration of the key points that have illuminated our path, starting with a powerful recap of the most groundbreaking scientific breakthroughs that have transformed our ability to uncover these hidden truths. Imagine, if you will, the early days of criminal investigation, when instinct, brute force, and confession were often the primary tools. Compare that to the almost surgical precision available to investigators today, thanks to relentless innovation. One of the most monumental shifts, unequivocally, has been in the realm of DNA profiling and the revolutionary concept of touch DNA. We've moved far beyond the need for a copious blood sample or a sizable tissue fragment. Today, forensic scientists can construct a comprehensive genetic profile from as little as a few skin cells, shed unwittingly during a brief contact. A fleeting touch on a doorknob, a moment of aggression leaving epithelial cells on clothing, a hand brushed against a surface. These seemingly insignificant interactions now hold the potential to yield irrefutable identification. Consider the harrowing case of a decades-old cold case, where a young woman's disappearance had haunted a community for generations. The original investigation, limited by the technology of its time, had hit a dead end, leaving a family in perpetual limbo, a void of unanswered questions. Years later, a dedicated cold case unit decided to revisit the evidence, dusting off boxes of exhibits that had gathered dust in police storage. Among these was a seemingly innocuous piece of fabric, a small swatch cut from the victim's jacket. The initial examination had yielded nothing, but with the advent of advanced forensic techniques, specifically the amplification and analysis of degraded DNA, a breakthrough finally occurred. A forensic biologist, with painstaking care, was able to isolate and amplify minuscule amounts of DNA from a single, almost invisible skin cell found embedded within the fibers of that jacket, a cell likely left by an assailant during a struggle. This microscopic piece of biological material, virtually invisible to the naked eye, yielded a full genetic profile that, when uploaded to national databases, provided a match to an individual who had been living freely, untouched by suspicion, for over 30 years. The power of this moment cannot be overstated. It was a single, silent cell, a whisper across decades, that finally screamed the truth. Psychologically, the advent of touch DNA is profoundly significant on multiple levels. For the perpetrator, it represents an almost inescapable net. The very act of interaction, even the most fleeting, now carries the risk of leaving an immutable biological signature. This knowledge can be a powerful deterrent, but more often, it instills a creeping paranoia, the realization that nowhere is truly safe from detection, that their own body holds the key to their undoing. For victims and their families, it offers an enduring, almost miraculous, hope. It means that time, while it may dull the edges of grief, does not necessarily erode the truth. It suggests that even the most desperate situations, where conventional evidence is scarce, might still hold a sliver of hope for justice. This perseverance of truth, enshrined in our very genetic code, offers a unique form of closure, bringing an end to the agonizing uncertainty and allowing families to finally understand, to some degree, the narrative of their loved ones' final moments. It underscores the profound idea that our identity is not moral. Consider a chaotic shooting incident in a confined space, where multiple shots were fired, and the initial scene was fraught with confusion. Traditional methods might involve stringing lines from bullet holes, but these can be imprecise and difficult to visualize comprehensively, especially with complex ricochet patterns. In such a scenario, forensic specialists deploy sophisticated laser scanners, which capture millions of data points, creating a digital twin of the entire scene. Every bullet hole, every spent casing, every blood spatter, every piece of fragmented material is mapped with sub-millimeter accuracy. This data is then imported into 3D modeling software. What emerges is an immersive, interactive reconstruction. Investigators can virtually walk through the scene, adjust camera angles, and most crucially, trace the exact trajectory of every projectile. They can determine the precise angle of impact, the likely point of origin, and even differentiate between entrance and exit wounds with unprecedented clarity. This allows for an unambiguous understanding of who was where, what was fired, and in what sequence, transforming a jumbled, confusing event into a clear, measurable narrative. This level of precision can make all the difference in court, demonstrating with irrefutable visual evidence the mechanics of a violent act. Psychologically, the ability to achieve such precision in reconstructing violent events has a profound impact. For investigators, it removes ambiguity and speculation, replacing it with measurable, verifiable data. It allows them to understand not just that something happened, but how it happened, providing critical insights into the perpetrator's actions and intent. For jurors, it transcends abstract verbal descriptions, offering a concrete, visual representation of the crime, which can be immensely powerful in conveying the truth. It helps to contextualize the victim's experience and the perpetrator's actions, making the abstract consequences of violence terrifyingly real and understandable. For families, while agonizing, it can provide a stark clarity about the circumstances of their loved one's death, filling in the blanks of a horrific unknown with scientific certainty, however painful that certainty may be. The practical application for listeners lies in appreciating the meticulous detail and interdisciplinary nature of modern forensic pathology and ballistics. It's about recognizing how fundamental physics, combined with cutting-edge technology, can unravel the most complex and violent scenarios, ensuring that the physical evidence speaks with an unwavering voice, leaving no room for doubt about the mechanics of a crime. Let's shift our focus now from immediate trauma to the subtle, yet incredibly informative, world of forensic entomology and its pivotal role in determining the time of death. When a body is discovered, particularly after a significant period, traditional medical indicators for estimating the post-mortem interval, or PMI, become less reliable. This is where the often overlooked, yet astonishingly precise, science of insects comes into play. Forensic entomologists study the life cycles of insects that colonize decomposing remains, understanding that these creatures arrive in a predictable sequence and develop at rates influenced by environmental factors like temperature and humidity. Their presence, stage of development, and species identification become living clocks, ticking away the hours and days since death. Imagine the scenario of a body found in a remote woodland, several weeks after death, in an advanced state of decomposition. A medical examiner might be able to offer a broad estimate of time of death, perhaps a range of several weeks, but this might not be precise enough for an investigation. This is where the entomologist steps in. They carefully collect insect larvae, pupae, and adult insects from and around the remains, as well as samples of the underlying soil. Back in the laboratory, these samples are meticulously studied. By identifying the specific species. Psychologically, advanced toxicology and pharmacogenomics reveal the hidden dangers that can lurk within seemingly ordinary substances, and the profound individuality of human biochemistry. It underscores the incredible precision required to differentiate between an accidental, an intentional, or even a naturally predisposed adverse event. For grieving families, understanding the precise chemical or biological mechanism that led to their loved one's death, even if it points to an unforeseen biological vulnerability, can offer a form of closure. It transforms a bewildering, unexplained death into a medically comprehensible one, allowing for a deeper understanding of the final moments and, potentially, providing insights for other family members who might share similar genetic predispositions. It highlights the evolving frontier of medical understanding and its crucial overlap with forensic science. The practical application for the listener is to appreciate the extraordinary complexity of human biochemistry and drug interactions. It encourages a deeper respect for the subtle interplay of genetics, environment, and pharmaceutical agents, and how chemical analysis, combined with genetic insights, can uncover truths that defy superficial observation, giving voice to the body's silent chemical reactions. Having explored these groundbreaking scientific advancements, let us now reflect deeply on perhaps the most profound impact of forensic science, its ultimate role in providing closure to grieving families. It's a truth often overlooked amidst the excitement of scientific discovery or the drama of courtroom proceedings. Closure, in the context of unnatural death, is a multifaceted and deeply personal journey. It is rarely a sudden moment of epiphany or an immediate cessation of pain. Rather, it is often a gradual process, facilitated by the acquisition of knowledge. The psychological burden of the unknown, the agonizing questions of what happened, why, how did they suffer, who was responsible, is an unbearable weight that often prevents true mourning. It traps families in a perpetual state of limbo, unable to fully grieve because the narrative of their loved one's final moments is incomplete, or worse, entirely absent. Consider the harrowing ordeal of a family whose child disappeared without a trace, only for skeletal remains to be discovered years later in a remote, almost inaccessible area. The initial discovery brings a wave of agonizing emotions, relief that their loved one has been found, but also renewed grief and a fresh surge of questions. The remains are fragmented, degraded by time and elements, offering few immediate answers. This is where meticulous forensic work becomes an act of profound compassion. A forensic anthropologist reconstructs the skeleton, identifying every bone, discerning any signs of trauma, even old injuries. A forensic odontologist compares dental records, providing definitive identification. A forensic botanist analyzes plant material found on the bones, linking them to a specific time of year or a different environment. All these specialists work together, patiently, painstakingly, to weave a coherent narrative. Perhaps tool marks are found on a bone, indicating a specific type of weapon, or microscopic fibers from clothing are discovered, pointing to a suspect. Slowly, painstakingly, the story of what happened begins to emerge. The family, through the dedicated work of these scientists, finally learns the true circumstances of their loved one's death. They understand how it happened, even if the why remains elusive. They might finally be able to bury their child with dignity, knowing that truth was sought, and in many ways, found. Psychologically, this process is paramount to healing. Humans crave narrative, especially in tragedy. We need to understand the sequence of events, to place the suffering within a context, to assign meaning and, where appropriate, accountability. When this narrative is provided by the unassailable evidence of forensic science, it allows grief to finally. The practical application for the listener is to develop a deeper appreciation for the complex interplay of various forensic disciplines, recognizing that each expert, each technique, contributes a vital piece to the overall mosaic of truth. It's about understanding the immense dedication, ethical responsibility, and often unsung heroism of those who work in this field, and to recognize that every detail, no matter how small, has the potential to be a significant clue, a word in the silent language of the dead. It is a powerful reminder that vigilance, precision, and an unyielding commitment to objective truth are the keys to unlocking the narratives of those who can no longer speak for themselves. In closing, dear listener, Our journey through unnatural death has been one of revelation, demonstrating the extraordinary power of science to penetrate the veils of mystery that often shroud tragedy. We began with the premise that every unnatural death leaves a trail, and through our exploration of groundbreaking advancements in DNA, digital forensics, ballistics, entomology, and toxicology, we have seen this premise transformed into an undeniable reality. We have witnessed how forensic science acts as a beacon of hope, bringing not just justice, but also an invaluable measure of closure to grieving families, lifting the unbearable burden of the unknown. And most importantly, we have embraced the profound truth that the dead do, indeed, speak. Their voices are not heard with our ears, but understood through the meticulous interpretation of the physical world they leave behind. The silent testimonies of victims are amplified by the scientific instruments, the analytical minds, and the unwavering dedication of those who commit their lives to this vital work. It is a field constantly evolving, forever pushing the boundaries of what is possible, forever striving to refine its techniques and expand its reach. The pursuit of truth in the face of death is one of humanity's most ancient and noble endeavors, and forensic science stands at its cutting edge, providing the tools and the wisdom to ensure that no life, however tragically ended, is ever truly forgotten, and no story remains forever untold. As we conclude this summary, let us carry forward this understanding, this profound respect for the voice of the dead, as we prepare to transition into our next topic, where we will delve even deeper into the ethical considerations and societal impacts of these powerful scientific revelations. The conversation, like the pursuit of truth, is far from over. Call to action, join the investigation. Welcome, fellow truth seeker, to the final chapter of Unnatural Death. We have journeyed together through the labyrinthine corridors of forensic science, peered into the darkest corners of human nature, and sought illumination where shadows once reigned supreme. You've witnessed the meticulous reconstruction of crime scenes, the silent testimonies of trace evidence, and the relentless pursuit of justice through the lens of scientific discovery. As our exploration draws to a close, this isn't an ending, but rather an invitation, a call to action, to become an even more active participant in the fascinating world we've just uncovered. This chapter is dedicated to fostering a vibrant community, to encouraging your continued engagement with the true crime and forensics genre, and to empowering you to delve deeper into the mysteries that still surround us. It's about taking the knowledge and the curiosity we've cultivated together and transforming it into a dynamic, ongoing dialogue, a shared quest for understanding that extends far beyond the final words of this narration. Our core concept today, the very heartbeat of this closing chapter, is to encourage listener engagement, to build a thriving community around these compelling narratives, and to promote an unceasing, enthusiastic exploration of the true crime and forensics genre. Why is this so crucial, you might ask? Because the stories we've shared, the cases we've dissected, are not merely historical footnotes or fictional constructs, they are real human dramas, intricate puzzles, and profound reflections on society itself. The human mind is inherently drawn to mystery, to the thrill of solving a puzzle, to the pursuit of truth, and to the fundamental desire for justice. When we engage with true crime, we're not just passively consuming entertainment, we are, in a very real sense, honing our critical thinking skills, developing our observational prowess, and expanding our empathy for victims and their families. This genre, at its best, compels us to ask difficult questions, to challenge assumptions, and to appreciate the painstaking work of those who dedicate their lives to uncovering the facts. Think for a moment about the power of shared experience. When you discuss a captivating book or a gripping documentary with a friend, the story doesn't just end there, does it? It evolves, it deepens, it takes on new dimensions as different perspectives are introduced. This is the essence of community, a collective consciousness that enriches individual understanding. In the realm of true crime and forensics, this collective engagement is particularly potent. Imagine a community where fellow enthusiasts share theories, discuss the ethical implications of certain investigative techniques, or simply marvel at the ingenuity of forensic breakthroughs. Such a community becomes a powerful hub for learning, for debate, and for connection. It transforms a solitary listening experience into a shared intellectual adventure. By actively participating, by contributing your thoughts and insights, you're not just consuming content, you're helping to shape a broader narrative, contributing to a collective intelligence that benefits everyone involved. You become a part of something larger than yourself, a network of curious minds united by a common interest in the truth, no matter how complex or unsettling it may sometimes appear. This isn't just about finishing a book, it's about opening a new chapter in your own intellectual journey, surrounded by fellow explorers who share your passion for unraveling the deepest human mysteries. Now, let's delve into the specific ways you can join this burgeoning community and continue your journey of exploration. We've outlined 3 key points, each designed to empower you, to deepen your connection, and to ensure that your fascination with forensic science and true crime remains vibrant and well-fed. Our first call to action is simple yet incredibly impactful. We prompt you, our valued listener, to rate this audiobook and, crucially, to share your favo. Your experience with unnatural death is just as valuable and can inspire countless others. From a psychological perspective, why does this seemingly small act of rating and reviewing matter so profoundly? Firstly, there's the principle of reciprocity. We, as authors and creators, have invested countless hours, considerable effort, and deep passion into bringing Unnatural Death to life for you. By offering your feedback, you are completing a cycle of give and take, acknowledging the value you've received. This act of reciprocation is deeply ingrained in human social behavior and fosters a sense of mutual respect and appreciation. Secondly, and perhaps even more powerfully, your review serves as vital social proof. In today's digital landscape, where choices are abundant and attention spans are fleeting, Potential new listeners often rely heavily on the experiences of others. A glowing review, especially one that highlights a specific, compelling aspect of the book, perhaps the chilling accuracy of the blood spatter analysis in the Crimson Alibi case, or the groundbreaking toxicology report that exposed the silent poisoner, acts as a powerful endorsement. It signals to others that unnatural death is worthy of their time and investment. Think about it, when you're browsing for your next audiobook, aren't you more likely to pick one with numerous positive, detailed reviews? Your words become a beacon, guiding new curious minds to our shared investigation. Thirdly, and vital for our community building goal, sharing your favorite case or forensic detail fosters a profound sense of belonging. Humans are fundamentally social creatures, driven by an innate need to connect and to feel part of a group. When you articulate what resonated with you, you're not just expressing an opinion, you're signaling your intellectual alignment with others who share similar interests. Imagine reading a review where someone praises the very same intricate DNA profiling technique that captivated you. Instantly, a connection is forged, a silent acknowledgement of shared fascination. This shared experience, even if it's asynchronous through written reviews, builds the invisible threads of community, making you feel less like a solitary listener and more like a participant in a grand collective discussion. Furthermore, there's a powerful element of validation at play. When you articulate your thoughts and feelings about a complex subject like forensic science, and then see those thoughts acknowledged, perhaps even echoed by others, it validates your understanding and your intellectual engagement. It tells you that your insights are valuable, that your perspective matters. This validation encourages deeper reflection and continued learning, reinforcing the positive feedback loop of intellectual curiosity. It makes you feel heard, which is a fundamental human desire. Lastly, by vocalizing your appreciation and pinpointing specific aspects you enjoyed, you are actively engaging in what psychologists call cognitive dissonance reduction. When we invest time and emotion into something, and then openly praise it, we reinforce our positive experience. This isn't just about confirming a choice, it's about deepening your personal connection to the subject matter, solidifying the lessons learned, and integrating them more thoroughly into your own worldview. It's an act of self-persuasion that entrenches your positive feelings and ensures a lasting impact from the unnatural death experience. Your engagement here isn't just for us, or for potential listeners, it's also for you, enhancing your own memory and connection to the fascinating subject. So, how do you practically apply this first call to action? It's straightforward, yet powerful. Wherever you are currently listening to Unnatural Death, whether it's through a dedicated audiobook app like Audible, a general platform like Apple Books or Google Play Books, or even a library service, you'll find a section specifically for ratings and reviews. Take a moment, right now if possible, or immediately. Put a professionally designed diagram in the PDF, illustrating the different types of spatter patterns, or the step-by-step process of DNA extraction, immediately clarifies and solidifies that understanding. It transforms an auditory concept into a tangible, memorable visual, embedding the information more deeply in your memory and making it easier to recall and apply later. It's the difference between hearing a description of a blueprint and actually holding and examining the blueprint itself. Secondly, the PDF provides a sense of tangibility and permanence to your learning experience. While the audiobook is a temporal experience, unfolding over time, the PDF is a static, enduring resource. You can download it, save it, print it, and refer back to it at any time. This tangibility transforms abstract knowledge into something concrete you can hold and interact with. This physical interaction, even if digital, gives a sense of ownership over the information, making the learning process more active and engaging. It's a physical anchor for your intellectual journey. Thirdly, and particularly with the action plan checklists, the PDF fosters a profound sense of empowerment and agency. True crime and forensics can often feel like a world reserved for experts. However, by providing practical, step-by-step checklists, perhaps for evaluating the reliability of eyewitness testimony, for identifying common logical fallacies in investigative reporting, or even for setting up your own rudimentary cold case analysis framework, we empower you, the listener, to move beyond passive consumption. These checklists break down complex analytical processes into manageable, actionable steps. They give you a framework, a methodology, to approach real-world scenarios or even fictional mysteries with a more critical, forensic mindset. This sense of agency, the feeling that you can apply what you've learned, is incredibly motivating and deeply satisfying. It transforms you from an observer into a participant, an amateur sleuth equipped with professional-grade thought processes. Furthermore, the PDF acts as a bonus, an exclusive offering that leverages the psychological principle of novelty and exclusivity. It's an added value, a special resource for those who are truly invested in the material. This perceived exclusivity makes the PDF more desirable and reinforces the idea that you are a part of a select group of dedicated learners. It's a reward for your commitment and an incentive for continued engagement with the author's work and the genre itself. This feeling of receiving something extra, something valuable and unique, deepens your appreciation and connection to the overall experience. Finally, the very existence of the PDF, particularly the action plans, encourages continued engagement and learning. Psychologists have identified the Zeigarnik effect, which states that unfinished or interrupted tasks are remembered better than completed ones. By offering action plans, we're providing you with a mental to-do list, an invitation to continue applying and exploring the concepts. This creates a gentle cognitive tension that encourages you to revisit the material, to try out the checklists, and to keep thinking about the themes of unnatural death long after the narration has concluded. It's a subtle but powerful way to ensure the knowledge doesn't just dissipate but rather becomes a springboard for ongoing intellectual curiosity. So, How do you practically access and utilize this invaluable supplemental resource? It's designed to be easily accessible. Upon completion of this audiobook, or even now if you prefer, you will find instructions, typically within the description section of Unnatural Death on your audiobook platform, or on the author's dedicated website. The most common method will involve visiting a specific URL, usually found in the book's digital accompanying material or mentioned on the publisher's or author's main web page. Once there, you will likely encounter a clear button or link labeled Download Supplemental PDF or A. It's like leaving a breadcrumb trail that promises an even grander feast ahead. Secondly, it significantly reinforces brand loyalty and encourages continued support for the author. Having enjoyed Unnatural Death, you've already invested time, trust, and emotional energy into this particular author's work. This creates a strong foundation of familiarity and positive association. When a new book is recommended from the same author, it's not a leap into the unknown, it's a confident step forward with a known, trusted guide. This loyalty is invaluable for authors and ensures that you, the listener, continue to receive high-quality content tailored to your specific interests, deepening a mutually beneficial relationship. You've already done the hard work of discovering a voice you connect with, so why wouldn't you want to hear more from them? Thirdly, it leverages the powerful psychological principle of habit formation. If Unnatural Death has become a rewarding and enjoyable part of your listening routine, recommending the next book helps to solidify this positive habit. Humans are creatures of habit. Once we find something pleasurable and consistent, we tend to stick with it. By providing a clear next step, we facilitate the formation of a reading/listening habit that is both enjoyable and intellectually stimulating. It's easier to continue a positive routine than to start a new one from scratch, and this recommendation provides that seamless continuation. Fourthly, there's the comfort and security that comes with familiarity. In a world saturated with new content, choosing your next book can sometimes feel overwhelming. Sticking with an author whose style, narrative approach, and expertise you already appreciate removes this cognitive load. You know what you're getting, and you know it's likely to meet your expectations. This familiarity fosters a sense of comfort and reduces the perceived risk of investing your time in an unknown quantity, ensuring a smooth transition to your next captivating read. It's like returning to a favorite restaurant where you know the menu and trust the chef. Finally, and perhaps most subtly, this recommendation employs what is known as the foot in the door technique. Having already committed to one book by the author, even a relatively small commitment, you are psychologically more likely to agree to a subsequent, larger commitment, in this case, purchasing or listening to another full-length novel. This sequential agreement reinforces your identity as a loyal reader and makes the decision to engage with the next book feel like a natural, logical progression rather than a separate, new choice. It's a gentle nudge towards continued engagement that feels organic and authentic because it truly is born from the positive experience you've already had. Furthermore, ending the audiobook on this high note, with the promise of more enthralling content, aligns with the peak end rule of memory, ensuring that your overall impression of unnatural death is one of sustained excitement and anticipation, leaving you with a lasting positive feeling that encourages future exploration. Now, for the practical application of this exciting prospect, how do you discover and embrace the author's next forensic thriller? It's often incredibly simple. You can typically find information about forthcoming or existing works by the author on their author page within your audiobook platform, or, even more comprehensively, on their dedicated author website. The website will often feature a books or works section, detailing all their publications, sometimes with synopses, cover art, and even excerpts. We encourage you to visit author's website address, example www.authorname.com. On this website, you'll likely find a prominently displayed section for upcoming releases or other works. There, you'll discover details about the author's next forensic thriller, perhaps titled The Cadaver's Cipher or The Bone Collector's Code. You'll be able to read a captivating synopsis that hints at new, groundbreaking fronts. Thank you for listening to this audiobook. If you found value, meaning, or inspiration in this journey, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter. Your support helps us bring more timeless classics to life. See you in the next reading.